Hello there. Welcome in. It's drive time. Wednesday afternoon. We'll set you loose, get you halfway through your work week, halfway closer to the weekend. Plenty to talk about on although doldrums of summer, late July day. We've got Utah fall camp and the offing, some Jazz and NBA offseason news to get to, some NFL local off-season stuff we'll touch on. And we have the pleasure of doing it all. Buckle up, folks. It is Craig Bolerjack, voice of the Jazz, longtime broadcaster, worked in many a different roles, but he's been in this one for quite some time. Boler, welcome into the studio. Appreciate your time.
Good to see you. Thanks for the invite finally. It's good to be in studio.
Yeah.
It feels good. I miss it. Feels good.
You miss doing radio every day?
I do. Yeah.
A little bit?
Yeah,
Maybe not every day.
Yeah. I mean, every day is a challenge, let's be honest. But, yeah, it's fun to jump in. You know, times have changed since the old days when we actually jumped on the phone lines and got to hear a little input from the listeners as well. It was fun at times, comedic at others, and like other times you just shook your head. But it was, it's a great way to reach out and, to your listeners and bond a little bit. But it's good to be here, man. I appreciate the invite.
When you talk about call-in radio,
yeah,
any moments that stand out for you?
Oh, yeah, we had a guy, the Reverend, who came in and preached, and he must have stayed up all night to write this sports sermon. I don't know if old listeners may remember, but he was something. And we had another guy that really gave hell to Gordon Monson. His name's Stefan. I think that's enough said, if you know what I mean. But it was funny. They almost became personalities, Porter themselves, a little bit on the show. Wasn't meant to be that way. But when we heard they were on the line, we had to kind of finally say, okay, what's up? And it was, it was fun. It was fun. And then we had, some really good, serious talks. We had What Bugs You Wednesday. People just call in and gripe, whatever bugged them in the world of sport.
A grievance about
anything.
Sports or traffic or
anything.
The like.
But mostly sport. And today's world would probably be a constant barrage of NIL. When does it stop? What's the bumpers? Are they going to insert some sort of a lane to stay in, or is it going to continue to spiral? It's going to be interesting to see where that goes, that discussion goes.
What have you thought of this offseason in college football? It's been eventful.
Yeah.
It's been turbulent at times. The Big 12 just had their media days, and it was kind of an odd vibe at the Big 12 media days, right?
I listened in as much as I could, but I kind of sense the same thing. Look, the change of the guard of Kyle going, to the big house at Michigan, Morgan Scalley, let's be honest, I think there's pressure there. That whole thing on the Hill is still kind of undecided, Porter, on what the investment means.
Right.
And where it goes. And I think that tends to throw a cloud. How dark that is, I don't know. But new territory for sure. And how's it going to impact? I mean, the fan base and the way that they feel like they need to give, right, to their university? Or do they even want to now with an equity package that's, $500 million?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Reports that's the case. Obviously, they have, from what we understand, have finalized that deal. But numbers and whatnot, they'll come with the FOIA requests,
right.
and we'll get more information about that. The Big 12 as a whole, obviously, Texas Tech is the preseason favorite. BYU and Utah are kind of expected to be two of the teams to challenge them in that role. But you mentioned it there. The big story and the biggest story probably of this year in sport in Utah is Kyle Whittingham's a Michigan man. He's now in Ann Arbor. And the Morgan Scalley era, although it began in the bowl game, it begins in earnest, 5-6 days from now as fall camp wraps up. It's no longer Camp Kyle.
No.
It's Camp Scally, which is going to take some time to get used to.
Yeah, Camp Kyle is a thing of the past. Camp Scally, I ran into him at a fundraiser about a month and a half ago. He was uber positive.
As he is.
Always. It's amazing how much energy the guy carries with him every time I've run across him. But, I mean, it's his team now. I mean, he's been in the wings now for how long? 7, 8 years of kind of like just hang on a minute. And
of course, has been on campus since,
right.
2002?
Right.
2001.
And so, when Whit's done, it's yours. Well, Whit kept coming back. Whit wasn't ready to give it up, and obviously he still wants to coach, and that's why he's at Michigan.
We talked about it a little bit on the show yesterday. Tony Parks joined the program, a friend of yours.
Oh, yeah.
Who is a Michigan man.
Through and through.
And he is just ecstatic for the Kyle Whittingham era and to see what that brings. But for me, I brought this up on the show. Kyle Whittingham was hired, I want to say, midsummer, July, August, 1994. 2 months later, Boler, I was born. So for me, and I grew up in a Ute family,
sure,
folks who are big fans. Just seeing him in blue, right? I never saw him in BYU blue. Yeah. Seeing him in the maize in blue is very odd.
Yes,
I saw he was on a show with Rich Eisen a day or so ago. You could have heard that on this station. It's going to take some getting used to. Not only seeing that, but also not seeing him Monday press conferences up on the hill and on the sideline for the
I think it's a transition big for him. I mean, he probably feels a little odd, right, with new colors and an M on his hat.
You would think so.
Not a U. And, the crimson's gone, and now you're right. Was it the maize and gold? Is that what it is?
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Maize and blue.
Maize and blue.
The maize is the yellow for the corn.
I called a couple of games at the Big House, and I talked to Kyle for just a couple of exchanges when he took the job a day or two after, or a couple of weeks actually, let things settle. He, too, is amazed at the size of the Big House.
Right.
I mean, you see it. You think the Rose Bowl is one thing, and the Big House is another. And it is daunting, but energizing. And I think, they have the right guy for the time because they need to obviously reestablish what's right and wrong and make sure that message goes out. And there's not a guy that loves the game more. And you know what? I think he's going to embrace those guys and watch out, see how Michigan does. And, of course, the big test is Ohio State. That's what it's all about. Like BYU and Utah. It's always about Michigan, Ohio State.
107,000.
Huge.
601, the capacity.
I want that one chair. I want that one. 601.
Let's see where that one is.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable. The thought that's more than twice what you see at Rice Eccles Stadium. And not only that, Boler, crowd size is kind of an ancillary thing. That fan base is, and listen, we have a very passionate fan base here in Utah.
Absolutely.
But it's not a fan base necessarily with the kind of history and expectations that we see at Michigan. I wonder how Kyle handles that.
The history? Yeah, it's big.
Not just the history, but also the expectation that if you're not, number one, beating Ohio State, and he has some feel of that with BYU.
Sure.
If you're not beating Ohio State and then also going on and competing for a national championship, there's 107,601 fans who are going to be disappointed and consider that a failure as a season. That is a weight on a coach's shoulders that you really only see at a handful of places in the country. I think maybe 5 or 10.
I think there's 10 schools, man, that expect nothing but potential championships. Texas comes to mind right off the bat. Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Now you head to the South in the Southeastern Conference, and that's where I spent 13 years. And it's a religion, man. It's hard to put into words what a Saturday is in the South at Bama,
right?
At Auburn. I mean, it's Ole Miss. It's unbelievable And there's another city that travels with these guys, these teams, from one location to another for 4 months, right? And 20 and 30 footers, and they're all they don't stay in a hotel. They stay in a parking lot because they're all about the moment, the 3 or 4 days prior to kickoff. Then they pack up and head on down the road. But, I think Bama, Florida at one time when Spurrier was coaching, I think the expectations were monster there. Tennessee, when I called Peyton Manning's games, that was a monster of a responsibility for Phil Fulmer at that time.
Yep.
But things do change in some regards. But you know what, Porter, I still think most of the college football's dominance kind of lies in the hands of 10. And they dominate, by the way, what happens in college football. And I don't think they'll ever be done doing that because the money flows through the Big Ten and the Southeastern Conference.
We're seeing that this offseason where
yes,
a lot of the talk of college football and where it goes is based upon the Big Ten and the SEC and what they do. And that's part of the reason I think the Big 12 stuff felt a little odd and feels a little odd because they're kind of sitting where the Pac-12 felt like they were sitting a few years ago. Pac-12 has now been, in all intents and purposes, relegated, if we want to talk European terms.
yes.
And now the Big 12 is a competitive conference, a good football conference, a really good basketball conference, but they're the one looking in on the two big guys.
Right.
And there's kind of a defensive little insecurity there when you are in that position. You can see that kind of emanating from Brett Yormark in his presence, in his actions, and I don't want to say desperate, but there is a look at us, look at me, we have something to prove. I don't think that's necessarily always a bad thing, but from a conference perspective, it is kind of an interesting dynamic.
I think it's just the beginning of paranoia where you wonder what the next step is in college football, if indeed only the elite participate and everyone else just kind of go away. You bother me type of attitude. The NIL will help dictate that. Television contracts, we're looking at ESPN right now, and that's a big factor of how much cash is enough. And, are they going to just combine two mega conferences into one and let those guys compete for the championship and let, the others, Utah States of the world, kind of just, I guess, sit on a fence by themselves and play for what? Not
right.
Much. I hope that's not the case because, there's always a great story. BYU did it in '84, shocked the college football world, right? And it'll be interesting to see in the next 3 to 5 years, really, if the Big 12, I think, is a great conference, by the way. My K-State Wildcats are there. I can't let those guys go.
Right.
And they got a new coach. And so they're trying to regroup. Every school every year has to kind of, rethink things, take a look at the money and decide where to put it and just how, and also continue to embrace the fan base because that's the biggest part.
Morgan Scalley, we've talked a little bit big picture college football here. Zoom in on the Utes a little bit. Morgan Scalley camp begins here next week. We'll have interviews and we'll follow it as we can. It was funny. Dave Fox and I talked about this yesterday. Morgan and Kyle are very different people, personalities.
Absolutely.
Just a peek inside the football facility. I go up there each and every week for the press conferences, for the coaches shows, and I'm behind the scenes. I'm sitting in the office. I'm get a little inside look at and conversation with these guys. And Kyle, while I have gotten to know him well, and I like the guy a lot, he is all business, man, especially when he's in that facility. He let his guard down a little bit, becoming a grandfather and getting into his what we thought was maybe going to be a retirement.
Yeah.
But with Kyle, it was, coach's show starts at 6 p.m., right? And Kyle has like a clock in his head, right? He will sit down at 5:59 and 59 seconds.
Ready to go.
Ready to go, ready to rock, got his stuff in order. He had just gotten off the stair stepper or just walked off the practice field, and it's just very tight, very kind of military-ish, right?
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a great way to explain it.
Last year, just to finish this point, last year I walked into the football facility, and at one point I saw Morgan Scalley essentially doing a karaoke of a hip-hop song and dancing in his office on his desk. It's a different feel, but then when we got the email about fall camp starting, the practices and the procedures, it was copied and pasted. It was exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how very much similar football guys and a guy who's learned everything, not everything, but learned a good share of his coaching life from Kyle Whittingham, and the dynamic of them being completely different personalities and people.
I think we'll get a pretty good feeling of that in a short period of time because the emotions are totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan shows them. He's excited. He accelerates himself to a higher degree. Kyle, man, cool cat. Very, on the sideline, you wondered sometimes, man, he's almost predictable how he's going to react. He would show you on occasion on a pick, a fumble, his disgust and his headset and, how he is tuned in. Morgan's totally just the opposite. Stories of, the energy of and his interaction with the players. I think, a coach needs a coordinator like that or a coach that kind of is his middle guy.
Uh-huh.
And Morgan would take care of a fire or, an issue, but he did it with a lot of emotion and poking the bear. I wonder how that's going to play as a head coach, and who's his guy,
right?
That's actually going to be able to handle some of the middle ground.
Do you think now that Morgan has a more total umbrella that he has to work with, right? He's got to be paying attention to the offense and the play calling and all of the above. Does he dial that back a little bit? Do you think that the emotion that we've seen from Morgan Scalley, the coordinator, Morgan Scalley, the safeties coach, is maybe a little bit dialed back because he's now, just by nature of the job, has to be a little bit more dialed into everything that's going on?
I think
I wonder what that shows on the sideline.
Porter, that's a great question, man. Harbaugh's kind of still show it, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, it's who you are, and you can hide it for a while, but in moments, it's gonna show. It's gonna show itself, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, right? And I think Morgan is a much more emotional coach. Look how he played the game.
Yep.
And I think you cannot rein that back 24/7. Look, he's a head coach, Big 12 school, incredible history that he picks up from. The pressure is immense. Let's not understate that because it is. And the expectations, look, they called it would be a seamless transition, basically, when they kept telling Morgan, don't worry, it's, you're staying because you're the guy. Well, he's the guy. And we'll see how smooth that transition is. It's interesting you shared the fact that the whole way that he's going to do practice was a paced, pretty much how Kyle did it, and everything's going to be on time because that's what football is too. You got to be 2 minutes early,
right,
to everything. Not on time, 2 minutes early. And
on time is late.
On time's late. And again, this camp is so important for him to establish the way he coaches, the way what his expectations are. And the message is going to come quick because if you're not on board, then there's going to be some hell to pay. But it's going to be interesting to watch the transition because that's a huge story up there. Huge.
I think a good peek that fans got to Morgan Scalley was his intro press conference, right?
Yeah.
You never saw quite that from Kyle Whittingham. Even when he was named the head coach, it was a little bit more, this is what we're doing. This is how it goes. Morgan didn't have a script. Didn't read from anything. He was reading off quotes that are meaningful to him. You never in 20 years got quite that kind of peek into Kyle Whittingham, and we got it within 2 minutes of Morgan's intro press conference. But I also wonder, as I get older, I start to hear myself and see myself do things that my dad did.
Oh, sure.
That I was like,
oh yeah.
Oh, what's going on here? I'm kind of turning into this guy.
You're like that guy in the commercial. Don't be like your parents.
Right.
I love that.
I see that in me all the time. And I wonder with Morgan, his football dad, if you will, although his football dad was his real dad as well, with Bud Scalley, but how much we see, yes, his dad, but also Kyle Whittingham, his football, influence.
Yeah.
If we see that seep in and we start to see a Morgan Scalley on the sideline that, looks a little different than the Morgan Scalley we've seen. Literally, there were times, Boler, when I would see Morgan on the sideline calling plays, doing the defensive coordinator stuff, where I thought he was going to go try to make a tackle, right? You got guys pulling him back to the sideline. He actually had a guy on staff who I'm sure his job title was something else. But on game days, his job was to keep Morgan from getting onto the field. You'd pull him back, physically pull him off the field sometimes. And that's just something that as a head coach, I think you'll see at least an attempt or just a natural progression away from some of that.
You hope, but you really can't hide the fact of a man's emotion and the love of the game, but he's going to have to curtail it in some regard, honestly. Just the way it is. You're a head coach. Responsibility is immense. And there are some coaches, sometimes a flag flies, you encroach the field, and what's an official going to do? They may give a veteran coach a break, but for Morgan Scalley, he's going to have to earn some of that space on the field in my book. But it'll be one of the big stories to watch. The emotions of Morgan as a coach. Can he leave the player a little bit behind him? Can he leave the helmet on the bench and just be a head coach and let other guys, bark at the officials?
Right.
But I think also great coaches use a particular moment when they know it's time to make their point. And hopefully Morgan learned that from Kyle Whittingham.
And getting on the field, that's not only facetiously. I've seen up at fall camp before Morgan Scalley wearing a helmet and going through physical plays with his team.
I had a coach to do the same thing. He put on a helmet. He said, "Let's go." And he did no pads, just put on a helmet and wanted people to rock him. It was like, what are you doing? But that's the passion of football. And you know what? I think for Morgan, that's going to be the most difficult thing is say, okay, man, leave the cleats over here on the on the bench and the helmet. But you can still coach with passion.
Yep.
But it's got to be a little bit more in that controlled environment.
And there's part of that Morgan will keep and hold on to, and I think he should, and I think it's important. But it's going to be interesting to see how that transition plays out.
That's practice time, man. That's where practice comes into play, where that emotion and the love of the game is shown on a daily basis. But game time, you got to come together and make sure that when you look to the sideline, you see some. Okay, I get it. We're all together.
It's a head game at that point. You're playing chess with the other team, with the guys up in the press box, right? So that'll be interesting. It'll be fun to see. And of course, as I mentioned, the Morgan Scalley era begins in earnest in under a week up on the Hill at fall camp. We'll have each and every one of those interviews and availabilities up for you on the website, ESPN700sports.com, and of course right here on the home of the Utes. We'll switch gears a little bit. On the other side, one of your associates, one of your colleagues, talking some Jazz, talking some NBA offseason, talking some Western Conference with Chuck Cooperstein, the voice of the Mavericks. Still to come on the program today, Dave McMenamin, the NBA's ESPN insider. Of course, been following LeBron James around for quite some time. We'll get the latest in LeBron's move out of the Western Conference, and then we'll chat with our friend Stevenson Sylvester. More college football and Utes. All that still to come on The Drive. It's Porter Larson. It's Craig Boler, Jack. If you're driving down I-15, stay buckled up. We'll be back with more on the other side. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back. Drive Time on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. It is Utah's #1 sports talk, your home of the Utes. Of course, the first segment of the program brought to you by our friends at the Utah Road Home. Help Utah kids start school with confidence. Over 200 kids at the Road Home need your help with back-to-school clothes, shoes, backpacks, and more. ESPN 700 invites you to be a child's advocate this year. Visit ESPN700sports.com or appletreeforkids.com for more information and to donate now. Of course, we always appreciate our friends at the Utah Road Home. We'll be out there for the Mediathon come about Christmas time, as we do each and every year. A lot of college football talk in that opening segment with our guy Craig Boler, Jack, but now, from the voice of the Jazz to the voice of the Mavs, Chuck Cooperstein, talking some NBA, some Western Conference, joins the program now. It's been a minute, Chuck. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Absolutely. I don't know if I mentioned, did I tell you that Boler was with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you forced him into summer work.
Yes, we brought him off the beach and into the studio.
Come on, man! I got to get in the studio and cool off. Chuck, it's 103 here, and this is like 67 degrees in here. It feels great.
There we go.
Feels
Come
good,
on, man. This is what we do every year in Texas.
That's true.
This is what we are, which is exactly why I'm going to Wisconsin next week to get out of it.
Chuck, man, I hope you're having a good summer. I hope I see you up at the NBA meetings coming up real soon. Hey, man, just around the corner again, right? We're almost into August, which is hard to believe. It really is. It's upon us.
Oh, really? I mean, season ended April 12th, Boler.
It sure did.
It's been a long time.
It sure did.
I'm ready to see a schedule. I'm ready to go back to work.
I am too. Hey, just real quick, give me your thoughts where Kyrie is and Risha Shea comes over in that deal with Atlanta. Where are you guys at right now in Dallas after everything went down with Luka? I mean, you and I talked a lot last year and just, with Cooper and Luka. I mean, all that stuff. It was. I'm sure for us it was hard to focus on trying to win 17 games, Chuck, but you guys had a lot of other stuff outside the box.
Yeah, listen, it's been a fascinating off season to say the least. Jason Kidd not the coach anymore. Masai Ujiri and Mike Schmitz coming in to run the front office. I think an extremely aggressive off season to try to retool the team in their image as much as anything else, and they're still lacking a few things, and among them are guards. They really don't have, other than Kyrie, someone that that you can throw into an NBA game and they are going to be able to perform. We got a ton of wings. You again look at Masai and his history in Denver and in Toronto. I mean, he loves guys that between 6'8" and 6'10" who are long and athletic. We got a ton of those, but can we get him the ball? Do we have enough playmaking? I think that's something that's going to be interesting to watch, and obviously it's going to be engineered by a guy that's never coached in the NBA before. Dusty May coming in to be the coach. I don't think anybody was calling that shot after he won the national championship back in April. But and we know the history generally of people coming to the NBA without previous NBA experience, either on a bench, any type of experience for that matter. It's other than really Brad Stevens and Billy Donovan over the last 20 years, not a whole lot of success there. But I would think that you have Kyrie, and clearly you have a great player in Cooper Flagg as a jumping off point. And the plateau in Dallas is probably higher than it is in a lot of those other jobs where college coaches have come in and tried to turn it around.
Yeah, give us an idea, Chuck, the expectations now of Cooper Flagg. He's now, established himself as a legitimate, not just a prospect, but a legitimate threat as an NBA player. But when you look across the West, there are a lot of young, highly touted players that have come in the last couple of years. Where do you see him in the hierarchy of maybe this next era, this next generation of NBA players, and especially the guys in the West, and of course just neighbors of yours in San Antonio, of course.
Well, I think if you look at Flag's season and say compare game one against Wembanyama, when he had 10 points, 10 rebounds, didn't score in the first half, and was playing point guard really for the first time in his career, and he's being thrown in the deep end against some really good defenders, and of course Wembanyama went off that night. And then go to game 81 of the season when the Mavericks played in San Antonio, and he's matching Wembanyama basket for basket in the time that they're both in the game. And he winds up with 33 in that game, and he made it look really easy. And what is going to be the next step for Flag, I think, is his ability to shoot three-pointers. His ability to be able to spread the floor a little more, to be able to give not only himself but his teammates some more space to operate. And I think we're going to see that. The guy's an incredibly hard worker. The guy has done nothing but win in his life. So, what happened to him last season was the anomaly of all anomalies. So I think there's a major step forward for him, and I think we're going to see in pretty short order that he is an NBA elite player. A player that, just even thinking ahead to the Olympics in 2028, he's going to be on the U.S. team in 2028. I don't think there's any question about that. And he's probably going to be an all-star this year. And if he continues to accelerate the pace that he showed, through the second half of the season last year, once he got over his injury, he could even be, very close to an All-NBA caliber player this year. And Boler, I think you can appreciate this. Really, I think he is a supercharged Andre Kirilenko. To me, that is what he does everything. He can shoot it, he can drive it, he can block shots, he can guard on the perimeter. He just creates all kinds of havoc all over the place. He's a better version of that, and that's a pretty good place to start from.
Well, you're speaking pretty highly of a guy because, AK, as you know, and the defense is always a question. Chuck, what's a guy? Did he learn? Can he play D? Can he go both ends of the floor? AK was one of those players, as you know, with steals and block shots. But I'm excited to see him on the defensive side of the game as well and how he develops. Because his body really kind of, when we watch him play, I go, man, he's tough to get through. And I think if he finds that confidence that he could, put a body up, he could be a defender as well.
Well, Bowler, you saw the game where he went off. That was the first real he went off game in Salt Lake when he went for 42 that night.
Right.
And he
can't forget.
He really did make it look pretty easy.
He
that
did.
Night. And I don't think at that point the Jazz had decided that they weren't going to be playing at all. They were trying to win at that point. So it was pretty impressive what he did that night. And I think he is the type of guy. And I think we say this about a lot of guys in the NBA, that you really do need to see him in person more than what television shows to get the full impact of exactly what he does on the floor. And I think you're right. I think, this year, you throw him out there, you throw Rez Johnson out there, hopefully Derek Lively, at some point during the year. Don't know when he's going to be able to make it back after the foot surgery of last December, but he's expected back at some point. All of a sudden, that starts looking pretty interesting from a defensive standpoint, with people trying to get to the rim, because I don't think you're going to be able to get to the rim against those guys. And if you do get there, there's going to be a wall waiting for you.
Chuck, when you look at the Western Conference as a whole, obviously some changes this offseason. LeBron leaves and heads east. Luka now takes official helm of the Los Angeles Lakers, a guy you're awfully familiar with. San Antonio and OKC have kind of separated themselves as at least for the next few years, probably two of the favorites there. Regardless of how much better both the Mavs and the Jazz get in this offseason, they're going to be contending with a whole lot of talent in the Western Conference. How do you see this thing shaping out, and what teams do you think are best suited to challenge OKC and San Antonio?
Well, I think the Lakers, quite frankly, are. Because, number one, I'll never bet against Doncic. I will never, ever bet against his ability to carry his team, and especially when it is his team. And I will give LeBron all the credit in the world for taking a secondary role toward the end of last season when the Lakers got hot. I mean, they got hot in March. They were 14-2 in March, and they were killing people. I mean, it wasn't even close. And Luka was on one of those tears that really only he is really capable of being on. And then he got hurt, and obviously that changed everything for the playoffs. But I love them getting Kessler. I'm not sure why Danny didn't want to keep him. He's a lot smarter than I am. I'll defer to his understanding of the situation. But Kessler is perfect for what Luka needs in a center. He can screen, he can roll, he can finish, he can defend at the rim, he can block shots. And I think playing with Luka as opposed to some of the guards that he's played with in Utah that are not quite as adept in the pick and roll game and don't throw the great lob the way Luka throws the lob. I think Kessler is going to be an absolute force for the Lakers. I thought that was a great signing. I thought Memo Kalashvili is a terrific signing for them. He gives them a different look. Where you have the roll guy and the drop guy defensively. Here you've got a guy who's a pop guy and shoots the three really well, shoots 39% from three. So I was interested with that. I think Sexton, I've always been a Sexton fan. I've liked him everywhere he's been. I don't know why it never seems to work out with him wherever he is, but I think that was a plus for them. And nobody's really talking about them because they're still talking about Denver with Jokic and talking about the Timberwolves with Anthony Edwards and whatnot. But I think the Lakers are the biggest threat right now to Oklahoma City and San Antonio, such as any team can possibly be a threat to them.
That's Chuck Cooperstein, Mavericks radio play-by-play. You make the transition. Let's talk Jazz for a second. Chuck, because you mentioned Walker. In return, the Jazz get 2 firsts and 2 swap picks. All right. The other part of that story is the Jazz use their number 2 pick and take Darren Peterson. And there was some controversy there whether or not, he had the mentality to want to take it to a high level. The issues at Kansas, played 24 games. And all of a sudden, Summer League, he busts out the 2 games I called here in Salt Lake City with him on the floor. His debut was 28, and then Monday night after the 4th of July, he drops 25 and I think 10 assists.
Yeah.
And he has done everything right. He's got an NBA body. He's got a really mature, which I think Danny and Austin Ainge both have echoed multiple times, of how he's been able to just make the transition in a very short period of time. And just from, the Dallas perspective, because in the Big 12, I don't know did you ever see him by chance? You're on the road and you're working.
Yeah, obviously I watched him a ton on TV.
Yeah.
Never saw him in person.
Never saw him in person, which I watched him 3 times as well. And you always want wow, I want a little more. But he has shown that he can adapt. And if they do start Keontae George in the backcourt and you got Nurk or Triple J up front with Markkanen, or Triple J at the 5 or the 4, it's really an intriguing big front line, even without Walker. Re-signing Nurkic may have been, obviously a safety valve for Danny and Austin, but I think, again, in the state of Utah, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of hope finally that there's some – how about win a few games and be competitive again?
Well, I'm really waiting to see Utah – play hard all year long because I think Will Hardy's a hell of a coach. I really do. And he's never been allowed, frankly, to coach a team to win.
Chuck, this is year 5, Chuck. This is year 5 coming up.
I know. It's incredible, isn't it? And kudos to the Jazz fans for their patience in their willingness to put up with that, because as a fan, I don't know that I could put up with that. But you put 18,000 in there pretty much every night in the Delta Center, and that's kudos to them for either just believing in the process or simply wanting to watch NBA players play basketball. But here, I think it's going to be a lot better because I think they are going to try to win. Now, I have my doubts on Jackson. He's about the worst rebounding big guy I've ever seen. I mean, he blocks shots, and I get that, and I know he's a one-time Defensive Player of the Year. But at some point, you've got to rebound the ball, and he doesn't do a whole lot of that for a guy his size. We noticed, when he played in the World Cup, like in 2023, that he got pushed around by some really physical players, and I think the game is becoming more physical. So I'm trying to figure out where, how that all works with him. Markkanen is phenomenal. Markkanen is Dirk in a lot of ways, but he's never been allowed to, for whatever reason, whether it be injury or just team situation or whatnot, to really be that player. But you look at how he moves and how he shoots, how he rebounds. I mean, he's become a pretty darn good rebounder. I'm a huge fan of his. And it was impossible to not become a huge fan of Keontae George last year. I am curious to see how he and Darren Peterson will play together. Will they play nice with one another? With the ball. And I do, but I do believe that and this has been the case in just about any situation where you talk about two ball dominant guards. If they want it to work, it will work. And so, to watch that development during the course of the season for Utah is something that's is interesting. Nurkic, he played pretty well at the end of the year. Had a couple of triple doubles at the end of the year.
Yeah, he did.
He's and he does play with a little bit of an edge, and sometimes he goes over the edge. But there is definitely value in him. But I do think. There's a little bit of a, there is a step down from where Kessler could be because he didn't play very much last year. He played only 5 games.
Right.
To where, what Nurkic, who has now bounced around a little bit, but maybe he's found the right place for him in Utah.
Chuck, I think you hit it. Yeah, you hit it right on the head on the nail. He likes it here, and it's a rebirth. Porter, I think you would agree. What we saw, I think, surprised a lot of people, but the big man takes up space. He's a good he can screen as good as anyone I've seen in the league, holds the ball up high, as you know, and can dump it off to anybody. I mean, that's where the triple-doubles came, and we were all like, wow. The Jazz waited, it was like 1,600 games or so until Jordan Clarkson finally delivered a triple-double in regular season play.
By the way.
Yes, it was.
The Mavericks on New Year's night.
and then all of a sudden we get Nurk coming in here making it look like it's easy, and everyone like, wow. But no, he kind of captured the fans' emotions, and he played off of it. I'm excited to see how he does too, as you said, with a team trying to actually win night in, night out for a change.
And the one person we haven't talked about at all is Bailey. Is Bailey going to take? You asked about Flag and the step up that Flag, could take in his second year. Well, look, Ace Bailey's a top 5 pick.
Yep.
You got to hope that there's going to be a significant step up here, in his second year. And if that happens, and again with his size, Utah is playing. They're going to be playing really big, and I think that's one of the really fascinating subplots to look at during the year, and as we watch NBA basketball and see from year to year how what the trends are in the league. And I think we started to see it last year. I think it's going to continue into this year. The teams are trying to play as big as they possibly can for as long as they possibly can. And I'm looking at Utah's roster. I'm seeing a lot of big, agile guys. There has to be a step forward this year. There just has to be.
Chuck, before we get you out of here, you mentioned LeBron a little bit earlier on, and of course, you're the voice of the Mavs. We got the voice of the Jazz here, but that was the story of the offseason. I mean, hell, Adam Silver even said he was waiting to hear that decision to make some scheduling decisions. So that tells you how much that guy moves the needle. How do you feel about the basketball fit in Philadelphia and the storyline of a team that hasn't seen a finals berth since Allen Iverson in 2001?
And hasn't won a championship in 43 years, since 1983.
Right.
I mean, they're a lot like the Knicks in the sense that it's a great basketball town. The fans are passionate there, and they've had precious little success. Goodness, I mean, they haven't even been, to the conference finals in I think going back to 2001. I mean, they haven't been there in the Embiid era. I mean, they came obviously close in 2019 against Toronto, when the ball bounced on the rim 4 times for Kawhi Leonard. But I think LeBron's going to be awesome there. He's obviously got a relationship with Tyrese Maxey, through Rich Paul and Clutch. But again, I mentioned earlier with the Lakers and LeBron taking a secondary role when the Lakers really took off in March, and he doesn't have to do a whole lot of heavy lifting here, nor should he. He's going to be 42 on December 30th. So, I mean, you've got Maxey and you've got Edgecombe and you've got Jaylen Brown, to be able to do a lot of regular season heavy lifting in order to, keep LeBron as fresh as possible for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, that starting five there are fresh as few starting fives in the last decade that are as good as the one that the Sixers are going to roll out there. And then, you know what? You throw Nick Nurse in the mix, too. I think he's a great coach. I think he's just incredibly creative. He loves to mess up the game. And I think LeBron appreciates someone who's got a mind like that because he's got a mind like that. I think it's going to work out great for them. Now, again, is it good enough to beat the Knicks, or beat the Celtics and win the Eastern Conference? Or the Pacers obviously should be a whole lot better this year with Halliburton coming back. And I mean, look, their whole team was basically hurt last year too. Is that good enough? I don't know. I mean, that's why we play the games. But they're going to be in there swinging, and with a guy who has done nothing but exceed expectations his entire career. Can he do it one more time? It's it is, if not the biggest storyline in the NBA, certainly at the beginning of the season, it's going to be one that's continuous throughout the year.
Yeah, when that schedule comes out, I'm anxious to see national televised check marks alongside Philadelphia with LeBron and Jalen and Embiid. Chuck, real quick, I just think the bottom line to Philly, health. Age catches up with everybody. I mean, Kobe had the Achilles, and here's Kyrie. It happens. But LeBron spends a lot of time and money on his body. Jaylen Brown is incredible, in my opinion. And can Embiid finally have a healthy 75 games? That's going to be, to me, that's the biggest.
I'm not even counting on that, Craig.
65?
Listen, if they get 60 out of him,
get 50.
Bona is
True.
He's a legitimate NBA center, and he can definitely play minutes. And Nurse is creative enough that with the lineup that they have, they could play LeBron as a small ball 5. I mean, and really just mess up the game. So there's no way that team with marginal health is not winning between 50 and 55 games. Okay, they're going to do that. But as you say, I mean, it obviously does come down to health in the playoffs and, who is available when it counts most. A guy like Embiid, and I think Embiid really is the key when all is said and done, because we've been talking about playing big. Well, I mean, if you're throwing a 7'1", 280 guy out there who can do all the things that Embiid can do, if he's playing, well, you got to respect that as the opponent, and that makes life easier for a whole lot of other people. Even last year, he obviously had a really good end to that series against the Celtics, but he only played 7 of the 11 playoff games, and the Sixers were 3 and 4 in those games. So he's got a lot to prove. He does, and I think even to LeBron, and maybe even the presence of LeBron, kind of as it worked for Luka last year, that LeBron takes care of his body, spends millions of dollars on his body. Is Embiid actually going to really take care of himself this year and get himself into the best possible shape he can get into? Yeah. And if that happens, then it's a real problem for everybody in the league.
He is Chuck Cooperstein, the voice of the Mavs and longtime NBA stalwart. We appreciate his time, and we'll see him a couple times here in 2026, 2027. Thanks, Chuck.
Appreciate you having me, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Chuck.
Good stuff there from the voice of the Mavericks, going all around the map on the NBA and finishing.
He's a heavy lifter, man.
Yeah,
he's an encyclopedia. He makes an interesting point real quick. I know I got to hit break. Yeah. But for Embiid to see LeBron deliver on most nights, It does have an impact. I only go back to what some former Jazz players told me with Carl and John, because they were so durable, they felt like they had to play. And what I mean by that is LeBron's out there at 42, Embiid better to himself say, I think I can work through this slight hammy or this slight ankle and not just take the night off. I think that may be the most important fact that LeBron brings, and Jaylen Brown as well,
Yeah.
because he's a durable player.
Well, and not just the motivation of seeing those guys play through stuff, but also, and listen, he's got team doctors, he's got guys in his ear saying this already, but seeing the process
Right.
of how much LeBron spends on, yes, money, but also time, stretching, working out, like doing the things to take care of your body that are different when you're 7'1", 300 pounds, right? That's part of it, is that's a different body to take care of. But there's clearly that is what has put a limitation, a ceiling on Joel Embiid's game. It's not the talent, it's not the ability, it's been his availability, and that is something that you can work on. And yeah, I think seeing that example from LeBron is going to and should help him.
Some mind games that go with that. And I tell you what, the greats are great, but why are they? Mental game.
Yep.
The mental side of it. Kobe's, right? LeBron's, Michael's, the list goes on through decades of basketball. But there's always a separator, and most of them are that mental side. John Stockton's greatest compliment is he was an assassin at 6'1". Think about that. Think about that. That other players had that much respect and almost fear.
They didn't want to play John Stockton.
No, because
He hated playing John
mentally
Stockton.
and physically abused them. And that's probably the greatest compliment you can have.
For John.
Yeah,
He
for
would
John.
love hearing that.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely.
It's a guy who I go back to, I was playing Little League football. His son was my age. And I think he was Judge Memorial at one point. And there was just some guy on the sideline chirping. Instructions, little jabs, just this stern voice, like pissed off. And he's at a 12, 11-year-old football game.
I wonder who that could be.
It was John Stockton.
Yeah.
And he was just intense, man. And you could tell that just doesn't leave him. And, yeah, he showed that on the floor. Speaking of hoops, speaking of LeBron and the Sixers, a guy who is as close to that situation as maybe anyone in the league ecosystem, it is Dave McMiniman, ESPN's NBA insider. He joins the program next. Stevenson Sylvester still to come on the show. Big thanks to Chuck Cooperstein, the voice of the Mavericks, for joining us. Back on the other side for the 3 o'clock hour. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back. The Drive on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. I am Porter Larson, filling in for Spence today with my friend Craig Boler. Jack, I don't know. Parts undisclosed, I guess.
One of those trips.
He didn't tell me.
One of those. That's good. Glad he got out of town. Or maybe it's a staycation, right?
It's the time of year to do it here in this market. We've got some RSL, we've got some golf, we've got some things going on, but for the most part, this is the dog days of summer. That is not the case for our next guest. He's had a busy week, a busy month. He is one Dave McMenamin, ESPN's NBA insider, and of course, covering the Lakers, covering the LeBron James sweepstakes. Dave McMenamin, how's your month been? How's your week been?
You know what? It feels so much better having had the information out. LeBron makes this announcement on Friday. Spent the weekend, toiling with a bigger story, trying to do my best to get inside the decision-making process. And the best I can describe it to either of you guys ever given a speech at a wedding?
Yeah, actually.
So leading up to the speech, you're not really enjoying the wedding. You're thinking about the speech, and once you give the speech, pour me a drink. And I'm in the pour me a drink stage of my summer finally.
Good. We're glad to hear it. Hopefully you get some time to get away a little bit, although we know you like sticking around hoops year round.
For sure.
Let's stay in this space a little bit. Take us behind the scenes of the decision, how LeBron ended up in Philly, and we'll get into your perspective on it as well, because you're a guy that's familiar with both of these markets and, of course, both of these basketball ecosystems, both in L.A. and Philadelphia. It seems to me, Dave, and we'll get your read on it, at least with the starting five for the 76ers, the basketball fit is about as good as you can ask for. We'll have to see it on the floor, but on paper, and if healthy, this looks like a really, really formidable starting five.
Yeah, I think it was a Western Conference scout told me when I was doing some reporting on this, more talent always beats less talent, even if you got to figure out what the team looks like. And that's the beauty of an 82-game regular season. There's a lot of time to figure stuff out. And it's not just the starting five. Obviously, the starting five is attractive, but, the fact they ever had Anthony Simons and they got Dean Wade from Cleveland, they made some other moves to give them some sort of bench punch there, and they have ascending young talent. B.J. Edgecombe we don't know how good he can be yet. Tyrese Maxey, two-time All-Star, but continues to get better. Jaylen Brown smack in his prime, and then obviously Joel Embiid is a swing factor here. But in my reporting, I found out that there were several lengthy conversations between LeBron and Joel, and something that Joel was clear to convey to LeBron is that he feels right now fully healthy. And things can change, and we know his injury history, but that's important that at least the team that LeBron is initially joining has a healthy Joel Embiid. And I think obviously the fact that the Eastern Conference played a role there too. If you're playing in the West, and Utah Jazz fans well know this, even if you make the playoffs, you basically got two NBA Finals series in the Spurs and the Thunder before you get to the NBA Finals, potentially. And the East is not quite like that.
Dave, curious to know who was the runner-up. There were so many different reportings from different sources. Cleveland, then acquiesced a bit to Miami, but then the Pat Riley discussion came into mind. San Antonio mentioned for a brief moment. What did your in-depth reporting find from LeBron, and what finally tipped the scale? But who came close?
I feel pretty confident saying that the final five were obviously the Sixers, the Cavs, the Heat, the Warriors, and the Wolves. And if you're going to whittle even further down to the final three, the three Eastern Conference teams, Miami, Cleveland, and Philadelphia, all had a leg up on the two Western Conference scenarios because of what I just laid out, the gauntlet you have to get through just to get to the finals. I am not fully confident on what that order of 1, 2, 3 went, though. Rich Paul did say that at one point he thought LeBron was going to Miami, and so I think that you'd probably say Miami, you put number 2, because I haven't heard Rich say Cleveland, the same thing about Cleveland. At the same time, though, Shams Charania reported today that Cleveland was the only team to meet with LeBron in person, and that has to mean something about where they ended up in the final mix. And so, listen, it's wild to think about, but because he removed the idea of money and location as deciding factors, like he didn't need to stay close to LA to be in Golden State, he didn't need to seek the most money that any team could offer him. I included reporting in this story that the Clippers were preparing a $20 million plus single season contract for him. When you remove those two factors, it just came about winning. So that's what tips the scales. He believes the Philadelphia roster gives him his best chance to win a championship before he retires.
Dave, saying that and knowing that Golden State was mentioned, how much does this decision, as LeBron labeled his final decision, how much does that impact Steph Curry, his future with Golden State, or is he a lifer? Or do you think he wants or needs to move on?
It's always felt like he's a lifer there, and it is so special when the league gets someone of Steph's magnitude in the same market the entire time. Obviously, we all covered Dirk and Kobe. It was, I guess, more common back in the day, but yeah, in the recent generation, we got Dirk, Kobe, and Tim Duncan, obviously. But we always thought Dwayne Wade would play with the Heat the entire time, and then all of a sudden he's a Cav in a bowl. We always thought Tony Parker would play with the Spurs the entire time. All of a sudden he's in Charlotte. Like, it's not unthinkable to have Steph go somewhere else. And it'll just really come down to like what he desires. Like, for a variety of reasons, his life is very good in Golden State. But if he feels like his life can't be complete, or the basketball player portion of his life can't be complete without another chance to win a championship, he may have to move on. Like, ultimately, that's what this kind of came down to for LeBron. Like, he could have picked something else and, in his mind, had an outside shot at a ring. And in Philly, he feels like he has a realistic shot at a ring. Nothing guaranteed, but realistic. And maybe Steph makes the same calculation at some point.
And yeah, when you mention an outside shot of a ring, it comes to mind the Cleveland thing, where for LeBron, the motivation was clear that it was winning. He's going to Philly. With Cleveland, LeBron's a smart enough basketball mind that he's not going to go, even though it means going home, he's not going to go join, with all due respect, two very ball dominant guards who no longer really play defense. It didn't seem like a good fit for me. That Cleveland only seemed to be in the picture because of that. And I do wonder with Steph, how much attachment is there to what is now your basketball home in Golden State, and maybe trying to win on the way out. That's an interesting one. Now, on the topic of the Warriors, Draymond Green has signed a 1-year deal. The 1-year deal is essentially equal to what his player option would have been, which he declined earlier in the offseason so the Warriors could try and get LeBron. So obviously there was some agreement, some backroom handshake on that one. If they weren't to get LeBron, he would get his full player option essentially. What's left, Dave, on the NBA free agency and off-season docket?
I think the biggest players in terms of like actual consequence, there are some big names, of course, but like Jalen Duren is a big piece here. I don't think there's going to be another team out there that can really mess with the Pistons and their situation, make an offer sheet that would cause the Pistons to have to match if they want to keep him after his All-Star season last year. The only way Duren can now drum up leverage is basically to hold out. I've covered situations like that in the past, and if the Pistons decide that's enough of a distraction to not have him in training camp or miss some preseason games, or even if it extends all the way into the regular season, that could be a motivating factor to get them to change whatever the current offer is. But that's something you got to watch out for. Peyton Watson, his situation in Denver still remains unresolved. And then, I think these guys are like bigger names. I don't know how much they're going to affect winning. But, the bigger names like a James Harden, a Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, they've been such staples in the league for a long time. They all currently don't have contracts. And we'll see where they end up as well. I mean, Harden, I would bet he's back in Cleveland. Kind of, you mentioned that backdoor handshake, whatever. Like, there was certainly many people that told me around the league that when he was traded from the Clippers to Cleveland last season, that there was a mutual understanding that they would be offering him some sort of extension coming up in the offseason. And so you think that's going to happen. But, yeah, guys like Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, like we'll see where they end up.
Dave, a quick thought on Walker Kessler, and the Jazz got 2 firsts and 2 swap picks as he signed with the Lakers. I think it surprised some people here because a week prior he had gone on social media to talk about his relationship with the Jazz and Jazz fan base, and then Danny and Austin Ainge, get together and make this decision. And I think Walker really got maybe a couple $1 million more a year out of this deal, 2.5. I think when you finally break it down, maybe break that down, how it impacts the Lakers and how it impacts the Jazz from your standpoint.
Yeah, Craig, I'll give my thought, but I'd love to get your opinion after I share mine because, quite frankly, I haven't seen Kessler play all that much in my time covering the league. But from my point of view, Luka Doncic gave the Lakers front office basically marching orders, like get me an A-list center, and it was a tough big man market this year. But for reasons it's as obvious as the 7'2" size that he has, good hands, he's still young. He should fit offensively and defensively with this Lakers team. It's just a lot to give up, and I'm not even talking salary-wise. It's just a lot to give up assets-wise. Now, the Lakers were able to convince Austin Reeves to take a $5 million haircut from the original number that they agreed to on the extension, which should allow them, also with Mamu taking slightly less money than he had originally agreed to open up the mid-level exception next summer. So, that's one way they have to improve their team moving forward. But other than that, you're talking about vet minimum contracts. And you better hope that you hit on the guys that they hit on thus far in order to have this group work. Honestly, I mean this with no agenda at all. I'd love to hear your opinion of Kessler having called so many of his games.
Well, first, he's a uber-talented young player, injured last year, played 5 games before they decided to pull him and have the shoulder surgery. Porter, again, I think we didn't get enough to really make a stronger decision on what Walker could be. I think the potential is outrageous. Is he one-dimensional? Maybe at times, but yet his ability to use the left hand, block shots, rebound, and allow offensive second chances is very evident in his play. I thought he fit perfectly. This would have been one of the biggest lines in the NBA had he decided, or the Jazz decided to re-sign him. But Porter, I tell you, it's going to be interesting because Danny and Austin got 2 firsts and 2 swap picks, and I know let's just say they refilled the chest with picks, and I think the pressure really is kind of on Pelinka as well in L.A., right, to kind of move on from beyond LeBron. So it's really intriguing. I can't wait to see how he fits. Many believe it's a great combination, and as you said, marching orders for Luka to have a guy that can clear some space for him, and that's one thing Walker's body can do. It can clear. But for the Jazz, Nurkic does the same thing as they re-sign him to a 2-year deal, reportedly. And, he kind of has found a rebirth here in Utah, and that may have played a factor as well.
Yeah, I think, Boler, the thing that gets me is that it was the offer. Clearly the Lakers liked him enough liked the pairing enough with maybe a Luka to, I don't want to say overspend, but I mean, maybe it is a little bit of an overspend just with a guy who you mentioned. I don't think he's one-dimensional, but he's clearly got a strong forte on the defensive side of the ball. I think he's got an ability to maybe become a better shooter, maybe expand his game a little bit in that regard. But the asking price for the Jazz was reached, and I think it became too good to turn down, especially for a guy who is reportedly asking for more than a fifth, almost a fourth of your salary cap. For me, it's really tough to put that type of number towards a player who is not only not an all-star yet, but not an elite NBA player.
Coming off injury, I think played a factor too.
Yeah.
Let me see you as a healthy Walker Kessler. That would have helped Danny and Austin and Justin Zanuck make an easier decision whether to go the extra year with the deal.
Yep.
And I think that did come into play. Yeah.
I agree.
But timeline-wise, unless you had some evidence that okay, we're going to be trading David Robinson or Hakeem Olajuwon, who pick your all-time great center. Timeline-wise, it makes sense.
Yep.
Peterson is a young player, and he's going to be fantastic based on everything we've seen thus far. But it's not like he's going to be leading a team to a Western Conference Finals contention, expected to at least in the next 2-3 years, right? So why not pick up some assets that when he is starting ready to 4-5 years from now to be in that place, that you have things that you can do to bolster the team around them.
Yeah, it's a great point because really I think Austin and Danny, over the course of their careers, even in Boston, very much asset-driven, right? To have the ability to deal, to move, to use those pieces to their advantage no matter what it may be, and the Jazz are in good shape in that regard.
Dave, before we set you loose, we'll move off the floor a little bit, and apologies if I catch you off guard on this because it's just now coming down the line. Your colleague Baxter Holmes at ESPN reports that sources indicate the NBA probe into the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard potential cap circumvention could drag into 2027. That is, of course, something that if the parties don't agree to the findings or any of the proposed settlements that involve punishing the team, the investigation, the negotiations, I guess, could go on into next year. What are your thoughts on that, considering that, we have basketball in just a few months?
Yeah, I didn't. Actually, I got a couple of texts about it that I didn't. My phone was getting texts for some reason, and then I just looked down as you were presenting this to me, so I was unaware the story was coming. My initial thought is Adam Silver needs to find a new law firm to do these investigations, because you just can't have them drag out this long. It's inexcusable. You can't. It affects the balance of power. It affects business. Obviously, there's lives of several individuals right now hung up in that Brandon Ingram Kawhi Leonard swap that are also put on pause in terms of, and not just the players' lives, but their family, loved ones, etc., business interests, all the way down the line. And so it's just it's mind-numbing that it could take this long. That's my initial thought. If it does go into 2027, I think we need to examine I'm reading the tweet from Baxter saying any proposed settlement that involves punishing the team, or they don't agree with the findings. Well,
who cares if they agree with the findings? It's the findings.
The findings, if Adam Silver agrees with the findings, then it doesn't matter if the parties agree with the findings.
It's independent investigation, right?
Right. That's the key word, independent. You know what's funny when I read this, Porter and Dave? I forgot that the compensation was through a now defunct bank company that the money kind of was worked through.
And the guy that ran that company is now in prison for the next 14 years.
So it's a fascinating Yeah, it's a fascinating story.
All right, Dave, we'll let you go. We appreciate your time. Of course, as you mentioned, now your off season's actually here, so maybe we'll leave you alone for a couple weeks and bug you when we get closer to hoops.
All right, thanks a lot, gentlemen.
Thanks, Dave. Boler, you being a employee of the team and in part the league in a roundabout way, you feel comfortable diving into that stuff?
I don't
as you can.
Yeah, as I can. I mean, look, as everyone knows, I'm no lawyer. It's all about just stories and this is deep stuff. And my only comment is that I've always been fearful at times about the money that's being exchanged, and people always ask me, what's the limit? I don't know, and how you compensate someone and in what way, Porter. There's so many different ways under the table, so to speak.
Right.
And I think it's always dangerous that when that occurs. And, here we are with an independent investigation, but the parties don't agree, and he makes a point. The NBA, may have to stand up and make the decision. And, look, every owner knows what the rules are, and they have to play by those, or you get sucked under, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But I think it all comes down, and I hate to even bring this up into college and collegiate athletics, but, it's to the point now where the money is the driving force of everything, even more so. I used to, 10 years ago, it was still, it's driving, but now the NIL and are there guardrails in place? That's what needs to maybe be people sit down, help themselves over this situation, right? Because the Utes are going through this same thing. Like, how much can we spend without putting our university in harm's way?
Well, and they don't have a salary cap to give you a direct line, which makes it even more difficult.
And look, I'll say it up. I don't have a clue when it comes to corporate law or financial law, so that's a dangerous place to surf. But still, common sense is kind of where I go, is just like there's some issues that have to be talked about probably sooner than later.
Yep.
Because the trickle-down effect is real, and it's worrisome because I don't want to see college football. I love college football. I love college hoop. I love the NBA. I love the National Football League. I'm a sports junkie as you are. But don't let the money derail what you've worked so hard for. And I mean, money, you can only spend so much of it. 45 versus 47.5, 50 million. I mean, 7 million in college. And then you're mad. You want to go to the portal transfer. I mean, how many times I tell you, this summer league, I was amazed preparing how many of these young men had gone to multiple colleges to try to find their way to a situation that would allow them to be in this particular situation of making an NBA roster. It's amazing because, I hate to say this, my day.
Back in Boler's day.
But I think anyone listening, and if you played collegiately or made a commitment, when you signed your name to those offers to go to a college, then that was pretty much what my folks said. That's what you made a commitment.
Right.
They committed to you. And now you can jump out of that commitment like that.
You're committed to the check.
Guess what? I only got, 42 plays, and I'm out of here. And I'm a freshman, and you know what? You're supposed to kind of work your way into that starting lineup unless the coaches are guaranteeing you that you're going to be the guy. I remember real quick, at Alabama when Nick Saban was coaching, Dan Fouts and I were sitting down in his office, and he's an intimidating dude, man. And he tells it the way it is. And one reason why Saban left college football is because of the NIL and the money is involved. But I said, Coach, you talk about your running backs, da-da-da-da. Because you know what? These two guys are great. But I got three better over in the A dorm. And that's kind of, you stack it. And everyone gets to know that after your sophomore year, it's your turn. We rotate you in. You know the program. You know the offense. You know the system, and then you kind of rotate. And if injury happens, that means you have to jump in the fire a little quicker. But I think he got tired too as he went on. That if you don't play me, I'm done. Or mom and dad or grandpa or uncles and aunts would say, "Hey,
or this agent from a collective that might or may not be connected to the program."
Which is becoming more and more, of an issue now is who's guiding the decision, who's guiding it. A 17-year-old is not quite prepared to make that.
Right.
Now, that's just me. But, I hope that the leagues and the college ranks find the guardrails to protect themselves. That's an important thing. Protect themselves because they got a good thing going. But, man, the thing gets, the fire starts burning, I don't know where you go.
Well, and when you mention protect yourselves, that a lot of times has to do with the CBA. It has to do with the salary cap. It has to do with the mechanisms you have in place to protect yourselves. The NBA has those in place already.
Thank goodness.
But they're seemingly maybe hesitant to use them. So I got a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, no.
You can input how much you want, but we're gonna take a break, and on the other side,
sounds good.
Talk a little bit more about it because I could probably spend the rest of the show talking about this one. We'll be back on the other side. It's Craig Boler, Jack Porter Larson, filling in for Spence on The Drive on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
Is this your playlist?
I did pick this one. Little Chris Ledoux, bringing us in. What's your old rock guy? We usually play Def Leppard for you.
Yeah, my boys all love this type of music, and I do. I like it, but I am just hardcore 80s rock.
Okay.
And I know I've got to expand myself, but it's hard to do. I don't know, man. You throw on some Def, you throw on some Aerosmith, you throw on some Zed, Led Zeppelin.
I'm a big Led Zeppelin guy.
I love Doobie Brothers.
Okay.
Foghat. I mean, people are like, what? What's that? Yeah, Fool for the City. I mean, I don't know, man. It's when you find something, you just kind of hang on to it, and because it just brings you back to feeling good.
Yeah. I like a lot of acoustic music.
I like drums.
I don't like super fast paced or any computer electronic stuff in my tunes. So I kind of, I guess, lean towards a lot of country stuff. I grew up in Rodeoville, right? So that's part of it. But my dad was all 80s rock, all, as you mentioned, loved Def Leppard. I was the designated driver to many 80s hair metal shows.
Oh, wow.
Rat, actually several Def Leppard shows.
Round and Round, Rat. Yeah,
You familiar with Tesla?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think my dad saw Tesla live like 50-plus times.
Wow.
They knew him.
I'm seeing ZZ.
Because of that?
I'm seeing ZZ. I bet they did. Yeah. Hey, there he is again. Down on the front row guy. Yeah, I'm seeing ZZ Top's coming to Sandy Amphitheater.
Okay.
And so
that's a good venue to see a show at, too.
It is. And they're making that tour now since Dusty Hill passed away.
Right.
I think like 4 or 5 years ago. And Rush is back after Neil Peart passed, the drummer. Incredible. So, yeah. I tell you, all these guys are old, by the way.
Yeah.
Which tells me what I am. But they're all still touring.
The Rolling Stones have been putting out new music recently.
Unreal.
I will say my rock lean is more towards like 70s, 60s. I like the Beatles, the Stones, Led Zeppelin, of course. I love the Animals.
Oh, yeah. Cream.
Yep.
There's some. These are. I tell you, these names, man. They changed the radio. They changed it all, and little by little, 70s, 80s, 90s kind of went more. What do you call it? Electronic.
Yeah.
Just it was after
there was a disco influence, and then a lot of that. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I, as you kind of mentioned, I can't believe how much of these guys are still making music. We got new Rolling Stones music. We've got new Willie Nelson music still. We got Waylon Jennings' lost tapes.
Yeah, that's true. I heard about that.
Very
lost
cool.
tapes. Locked him up in his drawer. Family found him, and let's go make an album.
Pretty cool.
All right, let loose here.
Boler, we mentioned it with Dave. We mentioned the reporting from ESPN that the probe into the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard could go into 2027. So let's reset this a little bit. It came to light when there were reports of a company, Aspiration, making a deal with Kawhi Leonard, a marketing deal with Kawhi Leonard for this carbon credit program, which is basically planting trees. What came to light is that there was zero marketing involved with Kawhi Leonard. He didn't do a commercial. He didn't sit in front of he did no marketing, sent out no socials, no any of the above. They also weren't planting trees. Now, Aspiration is now defunct. They have gone under. They have been the subject of not just the NBA investigation, but federal crimes and federal investigations. Their founder is now in prison for the next 14 years. The deal they made with Kawhi Leonard through several different payments was up to maybe in excess of $50 million for a marketing deal in which no marketing happened, right? Interesting.
Yeah.
You line up the timing with this, and Pablo Torre, a former ESPN guy, is done a really, really good job of diving deep into this. And the timing lines up explicitly with when the Clippers were dumping money into aspiration, and then it was being transferred over to Kawhi Leonard. This brings up the question of salary cap circumvention, which the NBA has in place in their CBA protections against it. It is a no-go zone. You do not do it. This is also not the first time that Steve Ballmer, the wealthiest owner in sports, has been accused or subject of investigation in doing this. Once with Kawhi Leonard, once with DeAndre Jordan. So not only is this seemingly kind of out in the open, it's not new. And we're learning that now the NBA is, at the very least, you can characterize it as slow playing it, dragging their feet a little bit. Dave McMenamin alluded to just as much. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because you just look at it on its face. What they're saying is that if the parties don't agree on the findings, they may drag this on even further into when we're playing basketball. Why does it matter if the parties agree on the findings? The findings are the findings. The reason that it matters is because the Toronto Raptors, who have just traded for Kawhi Leonard, well, their owner is the chairman of the board of the NBA governors. He could have a say in what the punishment is for this malfeasance. The other guy, Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, I mentioned he's the wealthiest owner in sports. He's also a longtime associate of Adam Silver, and Adam Silver is a big part of the reason that he got in the door of becoming the owner of the LA Clippers. I feel like we're getting to a point where if Adam Silver doesn't come down on this hard, his perception as the commissioner is going to change a lot. And I think it already has started to. And this is
through the governors, the board of governors.
Yeah,
you feel
maybe less with the board of governors and more with the public, more with your fans, because I think the issue is that he is, and this is his job, to work with the board of governors.
Yes,
but it's also his job to kind of draw a line in the sand when you're not working for them explicitly. You're also working for the association and the ecosystem that surrounds it, right? So if the owners become more powerful than the guy at the top, that creates a little bit of a conflict of interest. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing with this situation. You hire an independent law firm to look into this, but it's the same independent law firm that found no wrongdoing for Terry Rozier in his gambling case 2 months before he was indicted for federal crimes in a gambling case. It's the same law firm that found no wrongdoing when there was clearly wrongdoing there. And now we're seeing that while it is independent investigation, what is it independent of? It doesn't seem like it's independent of the league and of the board of governors.
Interesting, yeah.
And so this is a very complicated, a lot of things go into this. But for me, it seems really simple that if you're Adam Silver, if you're the commissioner, no matter how much pressure you're getting from the league's wealthiest owners, how much pressure you're getting from the teams, you have to draw a line in the sand on this stuff. It seems to me that he is hesitant in doing so, and you can talk about the gambling stuff as well because it's similar in that regard where there used to be a very stark line of what you can and cannot do in this league, and it seems that is blurring in many ways for the larger corporate side of it. And I know that it's not done yet. We'll see how this plays out. But if it goes into 2027 and Kawhi Leonard's on the floor, whether with the Clippers or the Raptors, the noise around it's only going to get bigger and bigger. And I think it's a problem for Adam Silver. I think it's a problem for the league. And I think it's a problem for, I hate to bring up the phrase, the integrity of the game. I really do. I think that this is a really, really big moment for the association. And I don't know, man. They're saying that a source from the NBA PA said that there's no there as far as a clear, smoking gun, if you will.
Does that
sure?
Does that report by chance? Does it clarify whether the trade would continue to be as it has been, or is this negate the trade with Toronto?
They've been kind of ho-hum about that. Right now it's paused. But from what I understand, Adam Silver didn't pause the trade. The league didn't pause the trade. The parties did. The Raptors and the Clippers said, let's see what the punishment is, and then we'll revisit this. The weird thing is that the players involved, they've moved. Kawhi Leonard's been working with the Raptors. The players that went to the Clippers have been working out with the Clippers. So I think that this trade will go through. My understanding and my expectation is that when they get the punishment, say Kawhi Leonard is suspended, I think Kawhi Leonard should be. It's not necessarily him as much as it's his Uncle Dennis, the agent, who has been the party doing this, but it's still his responsibility to be a part of it. Say Kawhi Leonard is missing a quarter of the season, maybe that draft pick that was involved in the trade gets wiped off, or maybe it becomes protected. The margins of this trade are still in question, I think, based on what the punishment is. But again, I bring up the point, the chair of the NBA Board of Governors owns the Raptors and has a say in what this punishment may be. Steve Ballmer very much is in those rooms and a part of these conversations, and that's where I have an issue with Adam Silver, I guess, allowing it to get to this point without drawing a stark, clear line in the sand. Because now, if you're another team watching this, hey, maybe we can do this and make it a little cleaner. There's a marketing deal out there, but let's actually do some marketing, make it, a little more real, because the NBA doesn't seem to want to enforce it. I think it's a problem if they don't.
Yeah, and Porter, again, because of who I work for, I have to be careful because of those comments. And I get it. I'm concerned, sure. My big concern as well is the fans.
Yeah.
And I can say this from my chair as a fan myself, is the worst thing that could happen is you can't lose the confidence of the people that go and go to your games and watch, by the way, because it's all driven by the dollar, by the viewership numbers, and obviously the television contracts that have gotten, very lucrative. It goes back to the comment, too, of all sport, of how much is enough, right? I mean, how much is enough? And I get asked this all the time. I remember when Dave Winfield, there's a name from the past,
there we go,
signed the first $1 million contract in baseball, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we couldn't believe it. I think I was in junior high school, whatever, like, whoa, $1 million, are you kidding me, to play ball? And now that's just chump change, and again, I'm just a proponent, Porter, of just like common sense and guardrails that protect the leagues and schools from this exact situation. You really, by the way, you knocked it out pretty good in how it all went down, and it's really intriguing. And it almost reminds me of an NCAA probe where they found that a kid got a car from a third party and never reported it, and so they throw the death penalty at him.
Right.
SMU, all right? The NCAA doesn't really exist that much anymore in the sense of guiding what's right and wrong and the monies, because the NIL is taking care of that. Car comes with the deal, right, nowadays. So, yeah, I think, there's some big decisions to be made in sports at all levels of just being upfront, take your licks if necessary, and get going, move on. Because sometimes the after story is does more harm if you just nip it in the bud. But again, that's out of my pay range.
Yeah.
But it's disturbing because I think the fans have got to always trust, if they possibly can, what each institution is trying to do, especially when it comes to the cash cow.
And yeah, this is on the backdrop of NBA head coach and multiple players who have been indicted for gambling schemes. And we talk about protecting the game. That has to come from the association. You can't rely on the federal government to protect your brand, your league, when you have the mechanisms in the place in the CBA and elsewhere to do it yourself. If you have the gumption to do it.
See, that brings up another interesting point of who actually makes within their own organization that decision if punishment is needed or not. And you can't rely on the federal government to step in. They would bark if that was the case because, no, I can handle it or will handle it as our own institution.
Right.
And that doesn't seem at this moment to be the case. Sadly, it's confusing, and hopefully they'll find answers and it'll be the right ones.
I agree. First $1 million man in baseball was Nolan Ryan. 1979. The next year, however, Dave Winfield signed a $23 million deal for 10 years. And
so
it was
2.3, and that's
record-breaking.
That blew it all open right there, man. So Nolan got the fastballer got $1 million. So he's ticked off the next year that he signed before Winfield.
Yep. Quite some time ago.
Gosh, man. Things have changed.
I had something I wanted to get to you with. Talking about Led Zeppelin knocked me off the
Oh, how about Endagata Vita? You ever heard the story about that? It's really in the Garden of Eden. But the alleged story is that the group had, been experimenting with some experimental, highs and lows, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So when they sang it, Endagata Vita became the name of the song instead of In the Garden of Eden. Now that's kind of a rock history going down into the well of myth, but no one will ever say whether or not Led Zeppelin was high enough that day recording that the song became Endagata Vita. But if you slow it down, In the Garden of Eden.
Okay.
So there you go. That's folklore myth for that song.
There we go. Plenty of rock songs with similar foundings.
Oh, yeah.
Similar formulations.
The 70s. Come on. Man, I'm glad I was 9? Come on, man.
Oh, man. All right,
Woodstock, I don't know. Life changed then.
You would have had a great time at Woodstock. I'm sure of it.
That's where Jimi Hendrix, man. That's where he made his debut.
We're going to flip gears, talk a little more football, college football, Utes fall camp, and more expectations of the Big 12. Maybe some NFL offseason news as well with our next guest. He is the great and powerful Stevenson Sylvester, next on The Drive, right here on Utah's #1 sports talk. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Now Boler's on the aux
Photograph.
cord.
See, I'm a frustrated drummer.
What's the joke Spence always likes to tell? What has
I'd say the story is amazing. I mean, this drummer
5 arms and socks.
Yeah. In a car accident overseas, lost his arm, and such an integral part of this group that he developed some new pedals on his drums and continued to play.
Yeah.
With one arm and uses his feet as the other part. It's really a fascinating story.
Well, and you already use your feet as a drummer, so he's had to very much change, reinvent percussion, and
that's what you call ambidextrous. If you know left, right, he can. I mean, come on.
Well, I don't know if he's ambidextrous anymore.
Foot wise, left and right.
May have lost that a
little bit, yeah. But the pedals, though, for him to be able to still drum and kick that stuff out, it's amazing.
Speaking of, I hate to. Speaking of losing an arm, have you seen any of the stuff with the ESPN draft guy, Matt Miller?
No.
Oh man, we're going to talk about it after we talk to Sly.
Okay,
just a little bit. Crazy situation. Stevens and Sylvester, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
Doing well. Appreciate your time as always. We are closing in on Utah fall camp. Of course, Morgan Scalley takes the helm for the University of Utah just around the corner. And, the Scalley era is here. We saw him in the bowl game, of course, but I think that was still a little fresh, a little, going through some crazy times up there on the hill. The era of Scalley truly begins when we get to camp next week. What are you most excited for and attendant to that? What question marks do you have going into fall camp that we may look to be answering?
I can't believe it's next week already.
Right?
That is so crazy. Man, I'm excited about a lot of things, man. I mostly that I'm excited is for the non-staleness of college football, right? There's always something going on. Morgan Scalley taking over. All the amazing, the millions of questions. Is it going to be similar to Coach Wood? Is it not going to be similar? How different is it going to be with the new guy? We love Morgan. Morgan's a Utah guy, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many different headlines going into this. The new team, transfer portal, guys staying, guys going. How is this team set up? Is the defense ready to go? New Jordan growth. There's so many different things to worry about. There is no bit or part of Utah football that is stale right now. It is so much to talk about. So exciting. Football is great. Football is back, ladies and gentlemen. Less than 5 days away before camp starts. It's going to be absolutely terrific. I can't wait to watch. I'm most excited about a lot of things, man. I'm happy for Morgan, right? I've known Morgan for a very long time. When I was a player, just finding out who he was when I was a player, about the guys that were before me, and set the tone for what Utah culture is. And a big guy with that was Morgan, and now he's being able to take over the program and run this program how all former Utah football players expect it to be run is going to be awesome, man. And anytime a former player is able to take the helm at his college, you got to be excited for. And I'm more excited for Morgan because of just how detail oriented he is on everything. I think he's going to be extremely successful just because of the way that he approaches the game. And I love it. And he's very much a coach. He's very much a motivator, which is what coaches are. He wants to bring the best out of you, whether you were his teammate or you're his player. So I'm excited to see what he's able to instill into other coaches and to players. This is a different day and age in college football, man. And so I think it's built for Morgan Scalley, and I'm very, very excited to see his success.
Hey, Sly, every time I hear you, your energy, man, is addictive. I mean, it's you love the game. I love it. And by the way, a belated happy birthday.
There we go.
Oh, thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. You're under 40, so man, you can still put a helmet on, I think, in my book. And I always think of you.
I'm hanging on by a thread.
But hey, I always think of Sly Sylvester 08 13-0 Sugar Bowl, right? I mean, that was pretty special.
No, man, that was it feels like yesterday, and then it also feels like a long time ago as well, right? Amazing memories. One thing that I've always I was hearing, yeah, I know you guys have heard Shannon Sharp's podcast. He brought on the '96 Broncos Super Bowl winning team. The memory on all of these guys are like it happened yesterday. They're talking about player meetings and what happened and what play like it was yesterday. It was 1996 when they or 1996-97 whenever they beat the Packers for the Super Bowl, Denver Broncos, man. So football players and athletes' memories of certain things lives on forever, no matter what age you are, man. And so my memory is still intact. That's why I feel like it was yesterday. But man, it's getting further and further away.
I was going to say, Boler's gassing you up a little bit, saying you could still put on a helmet. I want to bring you back down. You're washed. You're old, dude.
Hey, Porter, you've been talking to my wife too much, man. Hey, cool breaks. She
All right.
reminds me every morning. I know.
Creaks and cracks, man. It happens. That's for sure.
I will say this, though. And since it's the end of July and it's very much the off season, we won't take any heat for talking about the Sugar Bowl 18 years ago. Yes, 18 years ago.
Amazing. Amazing.
I remember that game like it was yesterday, just because of how cool it was from a Utah standpoint. Of course, watching that matchup against Alabama, the expectations going in, and how quickly Utah very much took control of that game. But I also I look at it from, if I ever talk to a linebacker, we're talking film study, I mentioned that game. I say, go watch Stevenson Sylvester in that game particularly. The amount of time you spent in the backfield, the amount of time you spent around the football, the amount of time that you were one step ahead of the game, it shows not just how good you were as a player and as a natural baller, but also how confident you were in the scheme, how confident you were in your film study, how confident you were in what you knew what Alabama was going to do. Because if you watch that game, it's almost unbelievable just how much you seem to be ahead of the program, ahead of whatever Alabama was doing, when their motions went before the snap. Sly, you could see him calling out exactly what was going to happen, and then he's in the backfield swatting the ball out of the hands of the quarterback.
It's called anticipation and film work. Where Sly, you had that sixth sense going that day. There's no doubt.
Oh man, it's awesome when you get to that point. Porter, everything you said was right. I was just extremely confident in what we were doing. I knew our scheme. I knew how to bend our scheme. If you talk to Mike Wright, when Rojo's interception, that first interception, when we went up 14-0,
yep.
I traded Mike Wright. I didn't have to trade because I was supposed to be in coverage, and I'm like, Mike, you go in coverage. I'm blitzing. And I blitzed. I put the pressure on the quarterback and ends up throwing the pick. It was more so I was so confident that I was able to play every side of the game. I wasn't even worried about my responsibilities because I knew it so well that I was talking smack while the play was coming in. So I'm messing with Alabama while the play's coming in from us, and all I need to do is hear a word, and I know exactly where I'm going, that I can handle. I could do so many different things. And I was just in the zone, man. From the very start, that whole week, it was awesome being down in New Orleans. It was awesome being with my teammates. We just had the best time, best roster. We still talk so much today. That's what's awesome is our brotherhood is so tight. Even today, offense, defense, special teams, we're just an amazing unit, and that's what you love about sports, especially college football. Is college football? You have so many guys, right? You go to basketball, you have 10 to 15 guys. You go to volleyball, it's not that much. You go to other sports, it's not that many people. You got 130 guys back in the day. Now I think it's 180 guys on the roster. But you had 130 guys per year that you were connected with, man. And so that was just awesome, man. But being in the zone is something that you can take from 2018 LeBron, 90s Jordan, 2006 Kobe when you went off that year. Guys just being in the zone is something special, and I hope everybody who ever plays the sport feels that, whether you go to church ball or you're playing rec league or whatever. I'm just in the zone. I feel it. Nothing. The hoop is 30 miles wide. The end zone is so close to me. Whatever it is, it's just there. It's just a special moment. And in that game, that was just my time, man. I just felt it and I took advantage of it.
Yeah, and in honor of this, Sly, I did a little film breakdown of this a few years ago when we realized that there were kids entering the muss that weren't alive during your Sugar Bowl run, and they were like, "Who's this guy on the sideline?" So I'm currently resharing that on my socials. If you guys want a little look into just how disruptive and dominant Sly was in that game specifically, it was just a joy to watch. Of course,
they weren't alive.
Yep, you got kids in the stands that weren't around. That's how old you're getting.
Hey, Sly, can you flip back to Morgan for a moment? I'm curious. The transition that's happening right now, and you play the National Football League. You had multiple coaches. I'm curious, from a player's perspective, a kingpin like Kyle Whittingham goes off to Michigan, and everyone knows Morgan, but it's a different responsibility, as Porter and I were talking earlier today. What's happening in the minds of the player as that head coach moves on and now Morgan steps in? Is this an easy transition, or do you think Morgan has to maybe change his personality somewhat to fit the needs of the players? Just take me inside what you think's going down.
Man, the biggest thing to help all of this, I'll talk all day, but to surmise it, it's about buy-in, right? And that was the biggest thing that Morgan Scalley, to me, he was talking about on media days, and what he appreciated so much from the team, and what I've got from interviewing the guys in spring and media days, and I'll be interviewing him in training camp here as well, is how much they're bought into the change. They even in the bowl game, after they won the bowl game, I was talking to guys after the game, and just to understand that they are bought in to what happens. They know change happens, but all it takes is that one stale person to come in and start filtering negative energy around. If you don't have that, if you don't have negative energy, you have everybody on the same page of like, look, we're trying to win. If we buy into what Morgan is saying, we can win. That's what you saw in that bowl game against Nebraska. You saw a lot of people who bought in. They knew Coach Whittingham was going, but they still bought into what happened, and you see the success from that. If they buy in the offseason, they buy in training camp, they buy in during the season to what's going in, it's only up from there, man. And so I saw a lot of buy-in, I saw and I heard a lot of buy-in from the players, the coaching staff, from Morgan on what's to come in this transition, man. You know, transition happens, adversity happens, right? It's how do you handle adversity? How do you handle transition? How do you handle change? And I think that they're doing it the right way. If they're sticking together and make sure the outside noise doesn't mean anything, you know, from Burt Finklin and Devin Dampier staying in, right? There's so many narratives that are coming in. Can they coexist? Can they do this and that? And they don't care. They're just like, look, we can make this work. Let's just do it. How do we do it? Let's make it happen. That's the mentality that everybody needs to have, right? And going back to that Shannon Sharp podcast with the Denver Broncos, a team needs 105 Ed McCaffreys on it. Ed McCaffrey was the man. Whether he wasn't getting the football or he was that tough guy that you want on your football team that was bought in. And that's the biggest thing that you can tell from championship football teams or really successful football teams or sports teams is the buy-in from everybody and how that radiated across the organization, man. So I think the buy-in from this team is just right. I think Morgan is doing the right things and making sure he's communicating what he needs to communicate with the right people so far. So I'm extremely excited for how he started his journey, and let's just see how it goes, man. But he's primed and ready, and I believe Harlan and this administration is giving him everything that he needs to succeed. Now we just need these fans, and we need these games to go our way. And when you win, everybody wins, right? There's no argument. There's nothing going on. There's no negative things going on. So at the end of the day, make a play. make them play, baby, and win these football games, and everybody else will be great.
I think obviously the storylines, a lot of the discussion around this Utah football season is going to be about Morgan Scalley, about a new era. But on the field, Sly, personnel-wise, where do you feel most comfortable, and where do you think you are going into fall camp with some question marks? Obviously, the Utes have a really good set of skill position players returning, a few transfers coming in. The defense, I think, has received the benefit of the doubt and will continue to with Morgan Scalley at the helm. Still some question marks with who and where some of those pieces will be. And then, to me, the biggest question mark, although I have a lot of confidence in Jordan Gross and what he can do there, you're not only replacing 5 offensive linemen, the entire unit, you're also replacing one of the better offensive line coaches in college football in one Jim Harding. So is that where you maybe see, I don't want to say necessarily the most concern, but the most question marks?
Yeah, what's crazy is something you probably never really said about Utah coming into a season like this. The most comfortable position for me is quarterback.
Right.
Hey, we normally always have a like, oh, okay, he's good, but, how's the depth there? There's always questions. I don't have questions about depth. I don't have questions about ability. I know that they can put on. I am very, very excited about this quarterback room at the University of Utah. Talking to Devin, his confidence in playing, right? It was coming from New Mexico. He had a certain confidence there, but now he's played Division I football. He's been there. He's been in the end zone. He's had 5 touchdown games. He's had multiple air passing touchdowns, multiple rushing touchdown games. He's had over 100-yard rushing games. He's been there, and that confidence is awesome. His backup is also very young and has been there in the end zone, had success, made those big chunk plays. It's a very confident quarterback room heading into the season. So excited for them. My biggest worry has to be the offensive line. You just don't know, right? We can have all of the good feelings in the world going in. We like Jordan Gross. We like Obot, the guy he brought in. We like all these returning guys. I know we talked to the offensive line last year and how strong our second unit was last year. They said that the second unit could be a starting unit on many college football teams is what the O-line said last year. But, at the end of the day, it's can they protect? Can they move the football? You talked to Wayshawn Parker at media days. He's talking about this is going to be the better O-line than they had last year. Let's pump the brakes. We'll wait on that one. But you know what? I love confidence in your teammates. I love putting that out there. And if they are, this is going to be a dynamic football team that the whole college football is going to have to worry about, man. So Utah football is definitely on the mark and very, very excited for them this season. Defense is coming back, right? And one thing you got to understand, I think defensive play calling is very, very important, right? And Colton Swan taking over from Morgan Scalley, that is huge. I know he's been in the program. It's this, it's that. But calling the right play at the right time with the right personnel is huge. That is so huge. Why do you think so many head coaches are still offensive coordinators at the same time play callers at the many different levels? It's such a huge factor. And so I'm very excited to see exactly what Colton Swan can put into this defense. Can he call the right play at the right time, have the right personnel in there, make the right substitutions when needs to be happening, and how this team is going to really come into this game. He's got a lot of guys coming back. Very excited to see exactly how this team happens. But it's going to be great. It's going to be great. But those are my biggest questions coming in. And, of course, you got to execute. No game is won before it's played. So whatever preseason poll, stuff that the media's talking about, anybody's talking about, nothing happens before it's played. And so I can't wait to see these guys on the football field.
So I'm glad you mentioned the play calling thing because, number one, Utah is dealing with a new offensive coordinator coming off a year in which we saw some of the most creative and fun play calling we've ever seen at Utah from Jason Beck. We expect similar but not necessarily the same from Kevin McGivern. But on the defensive side of the football, Sly, under Morgan Scalley and, of course, under Kyle Whittingham and this entire 20-year run, the defensive play calling has been pretty unique to this program. A lot of times you would see Morgan, or when Kyle was back there, wait until the final second, really, to relay some information to his defense, to get adjustments in. You'd see delaying the play and delaying the snap by throwing a defensive lineman who's really slow in a substitution to get off the field. There's always something that Utah's doing that not many teams around the country are doing on the defensive side to either confuse, delay, or cause chaos on the opponent. Take us inside of just how unique it is, how Utah goes about that, and how difficult it may be for Colton Swan to keep that up or establish his own kind of fingerprint on that specific style of defense.
Well, there's always a comfortability level with all of those stuff, right? I think Morgan was extremely comfortable with, if it didn't work out, I'm still good with running. I'm comfortable with how I do this.
Yep.
Right? I think he was able to explain to Colton and Sharif and the whole defensive unit as to why he got the play in so late and why that was good. There's been a decade where they've been able to watch Morgan Scalley do that, see the success and do it. So if they're able to duplicate it, it would be Colton Swan or Sharif that would be able to duplicate that or have the confidence to do it. Now, is Colton Swan going to be able to do that? We don't know. There's so much into that. I loved it because, especially in the Ohio State game, there was such a chess match going between Ohio State's offensive play caller and Morgan. It was crazy. They would change a play, we would change a play, and it happened. I remember there was one set we changed the play 3 times within the I call it a shot clock, within the play clock, and before they snapped the ball, and it was just because Ohio State decided to change it, and so we changed it. It was absolutely awesome, and that's what goes into it. It's understanding exactly. There's so many rules in college football and football in general to benefit and behoove the offense because more points brings more excitement, yada, yada, yada. So there's a lot of offensive benefits in football. But one thing is defense can move all around before the snap. That is a huge, huge advantage for defenders. I absolutely love being able to do that and mess with the offense by doing that. Morgan did the same thing with getting that play in because everything we talk about the quarterback's ability to pre-snap read, right? If the defense isn't aligned before you've set your players who have to stand still, there's nothing for you to read, right? Kirk Cousins just did an interview in training camp talking about going through his snap progressions, right? If the defense is aligned this, then you got to go through this. And now the offenses have evolved to where I have to make my progressional reads on the run while I have Micah Parsons or Myles Garrett or Aaron Donald bearing down on me. I have to go through my 1, 2, 3, 4 progressions in milliseconds, right? It's making the game so much harder. And so by getting the play in and your defense being able to adjust and make your assignments adjusted at the last second helps your defense, confuses the offense, and it makes things happen that much quicker, man. So and that's all game plan. And there's just so much more that goes into it. The intricacies of your alignment, your assignments, your subtle movements, your whether the nickel is lined inside, on top, or outside. Can the quarterback see exactly where that person is aligned at the snap to make an adjustment? College football is so great because there's so many moving parts, especially for the quarterback position. It's why they get paid so much money. Is they have to worry about the snap count, the way people's aligned, snapping the ball too early, the down and distance, making the right throw, progressional reads, handing the ball off effectively, not being nervous, talking and communicating, all within the 40 seconds before a play is supposed to be snapped, and then continue on to another. It is such I know I just said a whole mouthful of stuff, but there's so many things to think about from the offensive defensive standpoint. And by you complicating an offensive mind of what they have to think about by you subtly getting the play in just a second later, not aligning a certain way or bluffing a segment, something like that. It's what was so great about my defense in Pittsburgh is I had the most veteran guys with Troy Polamalu, Brett Kiesel, Casey Hampton, James Ferrier, James Harrison. I had all of these guys because they had so much knowledge of the game. No offense was able to tell what we were able to do. I'm telling you right now, we didn't know what we were doing, right? Troy Polamalu was supposed to be in the quarters. He was supposed to be in the center quarters coverage, and he's up around the line of scrimmage like he's an outside linebacker, right? He's supposed to drop in the fourth. And so there will be times where he does drop into his drop from the line of scrimmage. He drops all the way to the quarters from the line of scrimmage. And then there's times that he blitzes when he was supposed to be in quarters coverage. What offense? How can you figure that out if you're an offense, right? And it was so awesome because Ryan Clark was able to see what Troy Polamalu did, and at the snap, if Troy blitz, all right, I'm playing thirds instead of halves. I'm supposed to play the back half. He lets Ike Taylor know that, like, hey, look, go to the thirds because Troy's blitzing, and they made that communication in milliseconds. It was almost it was nonverbal communication, but that's about chemistry, and that's why 11 guys being on the same page. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I really love this stuff.
Go ahead.
But there's
Keep going.
11 guys being on the same page is so beautiful, and being on chain. That's why, like, you have to respect, like, dancers and choreographers. Everybody being able to choreograph a dance the same way. Being able to be on the same football field and everybody being on the same page and everybody being on a string is such a beautiful string of motion, and it's art. It's art at its finest, and I love it. I'm sorry I talked a lot.
No, I love it.
That's where we're at.
And if I can add, Sly, it's also not going to be Colton Swan being thrown completely into the fire. If we can rewind to last year, not just the fact that he's been a defensive coordinator at a lower level, but we can rewind to last year when, I'll just say, folks within the program knew and Morgan Scalley knew and had an expectation that Kyle Whittingham was retiring. Now, things have changed since then. We'll put it there. But that expectation was there, and so towards the end of last year, Morgan and Colton were actually sometimes sharing some of those responsibilities, knowing that they didn't want to start from scratch when it was time. So just to ease and maybe get some confidence in Colton Swan, who isn't necessarily doing this for the very first time coming up next year.
I think Sly ought to coach. I mean, the passion of the game, the knowledge of the game. Sly, I'm telling you, man, it's impressive. Hey, I want to go to the offensive side real quick. Dampier, Big 12 newcomer of the year a year ago. What's his comfort level now with himself, first and foremost, but also within that offense and what he knows he can do and what they hope he can do even better?
It's with every year, man. You have more development. You have more understanding of your confidence. It's kind of what I was saying is there was a certain level of confidence in what he did at New Mexico coming to Utah, but there was another level of confidence in understanding that I was able to do all that I was able to do last year, and I wasn't healthy, right? That was the biggest thing I take away from media days and talking to Devin was I wasn't healthy. I wasn't at my best, but I took all the reps in practice. I did this. Football, you're never going to be completely healthy, but I owed it to my team, right? It was his mentality of I owed it to the guys to go out there and perform. And when I felt good, we did great. But I'm going to come into this year knowing my body, know what hits I need to take, know what things I need to do as far as holding the ball too long or getting rid of the ball quicker or trusting in these guys to make this play or doing this read that much faster. His confidence in the game, his confidence at this level or playing in the Big 12 is going to be that much higher. And so he's going to make that much better veteran plays. He's a veteran guy coming into this system. He's a vocal leader. You talk to everybody on the team, they love how Devin leads vocally. And that's what you want from your quarterback position. You don't want these quiet leaders. You got to have somebody who's like, look, when the chips are down, you can lean on me. Right? I am that guy. I am that guy to make that happen. And that's what I'm taking away from Devin Dampier, from understanding what he went through last year, what he was working on this offseason, what he's coming into this season with is just an ultimate confidence, an ultimate air. And I'm hoping that he has a Michael Vick at Virginia Tech type season where he's passing and throwing all over the place and not a team in the country can stop us.
Thank you for bringing up my Hokies on the way out. They're going to be better this year. I promise you.
Yes, I bet they are. I bet they are.
You don't want to dive deep into that?
No, I'm not really. If you're not playing, all I care about is Sandman. Sandman is the only thing that's coming from that. I absolutely love it, and I look from that. But as far as that goes, ACC is blah to me, and so. He ain't getting no love from Sly.
That's fair. I appreciate your time, Sly. We'll see you up on the hill, of course, leading into next week and leading into football. We're only a month out, man, and I couldn't be more excited for it. We can tell from that interview you're excited for it too. Can't wait.
I love it, man. Football is back, fellas. Let's go it. Let's do it.
Stevenson Sylvester, one of the best to ever do it at the University of Utah, and always appreciate his time. Just a joy. Just a joy to talk to, Boler.
You know what? The energy, the love of the game, could you just not feel it? I mean, just radiates.
Yeah.
I mean, he got to be a motivational speaker.
Sly was my first radio partner with the pregame stuff.
Man.
So I started, it's been 8 years now, making me feel old. Doing the pregame show. It was me and Sly, usually out at Beer Bar or somewhere. And he taught me so much about football. I came in, I got the job on the radio station. I know it all. And I didn't know a lick compared to what he taught me, even just doing the show.
That 12 minutes or 10 minutes that he gave us a breakdown of the game, but also thirds and halves of the field, and that sixth sense that he had. He talks about Palomalu, in Pittsburgh. He talked about what he learned in college and took it to the pros. I mean, he gave us a lesson of defense, but also how you, on the field, go with the feel.
Yeah.
I mean, you can – and how film study does pay off. And the Sugar Bowl was proof of that.
And when you're confident, when you can take risks, as a linebacker specifically.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, and he did, and he was able to do it. And to do a little smack talk on the side, that's only icing on the cake, I mean, I was just reading up on him today a little bit, and I just like, wow, man. I tell you, that Sugar Bowl, I do remember, but it helped kind of spark some memory of 08, how active, disruptive he was.
Yeah, I went in and, as I mentioned during that interview, I shared a film breakdown I did of it a few years ago, just pointing out some of those plays, not just the sacks and the forced fumbles, but
what do you have, two forced?
I think he had 2 forced fumbles. He had a recovery. He, as we talked about, he kind of forced the interception that was early in the game for Rojo.
I'm blitzing.
It wasn't just being active and being in the backfield. It was it was very critical times in the biggest game he'd ever played in, and a lot of times guys shy in that moment. They, you get nervous. It's understandable. Sly shined in that moment in a way that, number one, got him a chance at the NFL. Not that he wasn't headed there already, but number two, just shows what confidence in your scheme and your film study can give you. It gives you a true superpower on the football field.
Put him in the middle of the pack? Was it early fifth?
I think so.
Something around there? Yeah. Oh, that's great. Hey, you play 5 years in the league. Look, I still think, just talking to him today, guy, somebody ought to pick him up.
Right?
Let him coach.
Hey, you see him, he still looks like he can play some football.
I tell you,
he keeps up with it.
Yes, he does.
That's Craig Boler, Jack. Of course, we just spoke with Stevenson Sylvester, one of the best to ever do it here at the University of Utah. I am Porter Larson. We're filling in for Spence on The Drive. We'll come back on the other side and wrap things up for a Wednesday, tell you what's to come on a Thursday edition of the program, and set you loose halfway through your work week right here on Utah's #1 sports talk. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. There we go, Zach. Zach Robinson behind the glass producing the thing for us today.
Yeah, I met Zach today, man. He fits like a glove.
Appreciate him for sending us out with some Enter Sandman. Prompted by our guy Stevenson Sylvester.
Yeah.
Of course, the best entrance in college football when the Virginia Tech Hokies run out of the stadium at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, Virginia for this one.
Brought the Michael Vick, comment. Yeah.
Seen this in person once, and it lives up to it. I strongly suggest you make it. If you got a bucket list of college football venues, I don't care who you're a fan of, put this one on. Put this one on the list. It's a vibe, not like the SEC or the Big Ten in those giant stadiums. It's a vibe a little bit more like you get at BYU at Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Just a culture, a football community in a stadium that doesn't necessarily carry those types of numbers,
right? But
it carries that type of energy.
West Virginia has kind of a same feel.
Yeah. We don't speak kindly of them, but yes, they do. Boler, we mentioned it a little bit coming in, as you've done SEC games, you've traveled the country doing college football games. What are those venues for you? At least ones that you've seen in person that it just stands out as different. For me, like being at the Rose Bowl.
Oh,
shout out to the Utah football program for making that possible. To be out there for work, to broadcast from the Rose Bowl as we're leading up to kickoff. That was something that wasn't even on my bucket list because I didn't think it would be a thing. I wanted to go and see a Rose Bowl, but to be on the mic and lead into a game,
wow.
Be able to break it down and literally sit in front of the Rose Bowl in the parade and do a radio show was pretty damn cool. So that one for me is always going to be up there. I mentioned it at Lane Stadium and being a Hokies fan. That's really, really cool. But I really do think that despite them not being huge stadiums, the atmospheres of college football you get in Provo and in Salt Lake are second to none almost.
Well,
now,
the view is incredible as well.
That helps.
I think night football, for some reason, echoes even a more special feel.
Mm-hmm.
I was blessed to call games at the Rose Bowl, the Big House, the Swamp. Yes, SEC was kind of our home. Did some stuff with Fox, with the Pac-12 when Sarkisian was up at Washington.
Right.
That has a unique feel to it as well.
Right in the water.
Memorial Coliseum, USC land, amazing. Something about LSU, I got to be honest, would rank right there at number one, just because the night or two that we called games there, it was so hot, and there was steam and just fog, summer, early fall fog that kind of drifted across, and it gave it this just eerie, kind of like another planet. But the fan base was just incredible. Swamp, same thing at Florida. Bama is Bama. I mean, there's everywhere you go, the houndstooth hat, a Bear Bryant is everywhere. Every elevator, there's a picture of what was. Auburn, incredible. Man, I tell you, I did a game. Vic was playing, and it was early in my CBS career. And man, oh man, you talk about a talent that just rocked the world that day. I think I did that game with Todd Christensen
in Blacksburg.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you have seen that in person.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an amazing one game, but it was all about Vic. And
as it was for a couple of years there.
Yeah. And it's just fun to go and see how everyone reacts differently. The South has, like I said, thousands of fans who never even go into the stadium and who live the moment outside watching it in the Grove, by the way. I mean, it's a city on wheels that travel to and from each stadium each week. But There's nothing better. I mean, the NFL is the NFL. The college football is more religion,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And you feel it wherever you go.
Well, it's more tied to your identity as a, not necessarily just the people who went to school there,
right.
but it feels more connected to the city you're in, the people there. Yeah, an NFL Sunday, you're going to walk around Denver and see a bunch of Broncos jerseys and see people out and about.
Arrowhead, wow.
But it never gets that type of feeling. Green Bay maybe more so than others, but that's part of that community.
Well, they own stocks.
Because they own part of the team. And you
did a game at Green Bay. It's green painted, steel corrugated, walls, or it was when I was there. Notre Dame, incredible. That's special just because of the history.
Yep.
And you can almost sense and feel it. Where's Rockme? Where is he? Was the Gippa? I mean, it's amazing. I tell you, Texas also, is it true? I think Austin becomes the second largest city in the state of Texas on football Saturday because of the Longhorns. I mean, think about that.
It's too cool.
I think it's one of the great things is that football brings everyone together for 3 hours, and there's nothing like a live sporting event, and to be a part of it, to call it and feel it. It's an addiction.
And when it changes the dynamics of a city for whatever it is, 3 hours or so.
It's true.
It feels like there's a real connection to it.
The build-up to pregame, to the moment of kickoff. I mean, if anyone who's experienced it, they know. It's special.
You ever been to the Oakley Rodeo?
Yes, once.
I grew up in Oakley
years ago. You grew up in Oakley,
and that's kind of the only reason I mentioned, because we talked about how it brings the city. Austin becomes the second biggest city in Texas. When I was born, I think Oakley had a population of 600 people, 800 people maybe, and one weekend a year, there's 40,000, 50,000 folks that are in town, and growing up, I could not believe it. Right, the quietest little country town all year long. And then one day a year, all of a sudden, everything I'm used to as a little kid completely changes. There are people parking on my lawn and trying to find their way to the rodeo grounds. And there's a connection you have when it's part of not just, a school you went to or a team you cheer for on TV, but it's part of the community you're in. And it feels more that way with college football than pro sports, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. There's pride that goes with it. The Oakley, the rodeo, the same thing. It's your town.
Yep.
It's being invaded, but it's cool, right? I can't imagine as a kid what you must have thought.
Well, it's again a town of, they got a couple thousand now, but when I was growing up, it was 500, 600, 700 people. But it was the second or third largest rodeo event in the country on the 4th of July, right? So it's super cool to see, and I think that there's something you can learn from that if you're trying to build a community or a something to surround your college football team, or on the pro side, right? If you're Ryan Smith, if you're the Millers trying to bring a baseball team here, there's something to learn from connecting with not just fans, but the broader community around you. It changes the economy around your team. It changes the feeling and the vibes around your team and your program.
That's why the Delta Center just still has something special about it.
Yeah.
The memories are one thing, but the location's another. And with the renovations and then, of course, what's downtown, we'll build more around it with restaurants and gathering spots. It brings more sense of self and city, right? I mean, it's amazing what a team or teams in a city can do.
Right.
I mean, and Salt Lake City's grown up. I mean, with the Mammoth, look at already in 2 years' time, how much following and pride has already been built into that fan base. I find it amazing.
I do too. It's really impressive to see what they've built in such short order. Winning helps. Them being competitive and being a playoff team. Like I was at the Delta Center for a few of those playoff games, and Man, I don't have anything to compare it to. I've never been to other NHL games, but the environment there, I'm not going to say it's the best I've ever seen it because I've seen some pretty cool Utah Jazz runs and pretty cool environments with the basketball side, but it stood up to it. It definitely was up to par when you talk about the environment that they built, and it didn't feel like a organization, a team that was trying to find a community. It very much felt like it was established.
I felt like they'd been there.
Yeah.
That's the beauty. I think you have to compliment the Jazz, the Miller organization, and with some help from what Phoenix, the people they brought.
Of course.
But the bottom line is I didn't feel like it was I felt like they had been there. And that's an oddity for such a young new established franchise, right, in the NHL. And now look at the Delta. The Delta Center has gone now their second summer of renovations, and the views, they're taking care of the fan base. You know, the unobstructed views will be wiped away, and there'll be one more summer of renovation. And, man, that building just stands a true test of time. Larry Miller, genius, because I never knew there were so many little areas within that building that could be expanded. Toyota Club. Are you kidding me? Underneath the second level was totally turned into the Toyota Club. I mean, it fascinates me that they've been able to use every inch of that building, and it looks brand new every time I walk in that place.
And
the floors, there's nothing out of place.
Right.
Nothing.
To add to the authenticity of it, Larry really had to use the community and use folks around him to make that happen. When he got the Delta Center, let's just say he was very creative with the funding behind it. Needed help.
He did.
And
went overseas.
Got it done. And
you know what? And he was under budget from all indications, and he knew every yard of concrete, every piece of rebar, how it was put together. They built it on a totally different. Remember, it was called the Fast Track. And I was over at KSL at that time, looking out my windows at night, and it was 24/7 action. I remember there's a welder up in a tent in a snowstorm putting that roof on.
Really?
And going, wow, man, this is serious business. I mean, Larry is getting it done. And the rest is history, and it stands today. And it's going to be around a while. I love it.
Well, and now, of course, the Millers are trying more. Not just the Millers, but kind of a consortium of locals who are trying to bring baseball here. I think it's not just likely. I think if the MLB expands, that the real thing is that their CBA situation might be a little ugly.
Yeah.
Might be, and they're not going to expand before that gets figured out. But if we get to a point where you see the breaking news, MLB Players Association agreed on a CBA, get ready. Because I think that there's a good likelihood that if that happens and they come to an agreement without a large stoppage, without really hurting the league, I think they'll look to expand pretty quick. And I do believe Salt Lake will be on the offing.
You know why it helps Vegas for Salt Lake? Because Vegas is there. You know, they're building the A's. That stadium is about halfway up. I was just through there about a week and a half ago. Wow. Right across the street from Excalibur and MGM and New York, New York. That thing is going to be a diamond. And think about the NBA expansion. I mean, Vegas is going to be a centerpiece, and it only helps, I think, Salt Lake to continue to grow in the sports world. I'm just kind of curious, is there enough business and revenue sharing right within it? That, to me, is probably the biggest. I'm sure they've all done their homework on who's in and who can be a part of Major League Baseball. But, you know, they'll be fighting for dollars, but that's competition, man. That's what it is. But if baseball comes, wow. I mean, it'd be another dream of the Millers, and especially Larry's, to come to fruition. He loved the game. Loved softball, as we know, but he loved baseball as well.
Yeah, it would be really cool. And I think that you mentioned the fight for dollars. Like, the corporate dollars only go so far.
Right.
But how successful and how seamless the hockey team has been, I think, gives the league and gives the corporate ecosystem around sports here in the market a lot of confidence in being able to pull off a baseball team.
And again, they have people that are hired to do exactly what you and I are talking about, diving into the dollars.
Yep.
And what the potential revenue is, again, for the state as it continues to grow. And we didn't know if hockey would be, Salt Lake would be, or Utah would be a hockey state.
We're in the desert.
We got the answer, didn't we?
Yeah, pretty
And
quick.
is this a baseball town? I think, there's been longevity in town all the way back to the old Trappers days, and then the Bees and the Buzz and all the above. And the goals.
I would love if they get a team, if they're the Trappers. I think that'd be really cool.
You know what? 87, if I remember, just barely got to Salt Lake. And they set the record of 27, I think, consecutive wins.
Yeah.
Not
I think it still stands, too.
Yeah. And Bill Murray was a part owner.
Yep.
And he was at the ballpark that night, the old Dirks Field. And, that was fun. Those guys were playing. It's like banana ball in a way. I mean, but obviously banana ball is outrageous. But these guys were playing really for nothing.
A banana ball reference from Boler to get out of here. You've been watching.
Man.
You've been following those games.
It's crazy. Those guys are unreal.
They are entertaining. They're
time.
performers. I never was like a WWE guy or like a choreographed sport guy. So I haven't gotten into it.
I've watched it twice.
I gotta give
amazed.
credit to the fact that for something that is kind of scripted and the Globetrotters ish.
Yes,
they are packing stadiums.
They are. It's right now is a summer bonanza, and it's something that people can't get enough of. And I have to see this. And these guys are making catches and doing things, but it's a little Metal Lark Lemon, kind of style of play. Where what's going down, but it's well done. But the athletes are still getting it done out there. It's a different thing, but it's fun.
All right, Boler. I really had fun doing the show with you today.
Thanks for the invite, man.
Thanks for coming in. Helped us fill some time, and I was always looking forward to it. What's as Dave McMenamin told us, it's now like actually the off season.
Yeah.
What's in store? Boler gonna sit back in the rocking chair until tip off?
I've had enough of that. I'll be honest. I'm excited to get the schedule. It's like Christmas morning when you go, wow, here we go, 82.
Well, Adam Silver, not that you have anything else to focus on right now, but you said you're waiting for LeBron. Let's see the schedule.
Look, it's done. I think preseason schedule will be out really soon, and usually the way the league works is sometime second week of August, and you sit down and you look and study like, okay, let's look at trends. Where can this team excel? For me, look, the last 2 years, and let's take it all the way back to COVID of 20, March 11 of 2020 in Oklahoma City. Things changed, and the Jazz changed after that. And Will Hardy, I'm excited for, like Chuck said, because he can coach. I've watched him. He's very well connected, Porter, with these guys, and it's time. I don't think there's a better time than now. And the fan base has been incredible to go through a season of 17 and 22 wins. You've got the 5-pick in Ace and the 2-pick in Peterson, and you got some pieces that are really intriguing. I think the city's on fire. They should be. They've got hockey. They've got a young, talented NBA team that I can't wait to get back to. And, I'll take a couple of trips, and I hang out up in the mountains, and I love it up there. But, man, I'm starting to kind of feel as August hits. And with football also, there's something about the juice that starts to kind of say, I mean, it's like Sly. I mean, he feels it, and you feel it. It's coming to be football season. And what's that do? It then leans into the NBA, and I love it. And you know what? The NFL, they're in camps. I mean, when's the we a week away from Hall of Fame Bowl?
We're getting, I think close to it.
It's unreal. Thursday.
Wow.
And so it's here, and I think that does fuel it. I like to get away in May and June, but all of a sudden, into July, here it is August. I'm going, let's go, let's play, let's get it going, because the anticipation I haven't felt this with the fan base and the people I run into as much as I have in the last 5 years. You know, the Donovan and Rudy days and Quinn days are gone, and now you have Will Hardy, and you have Ace, and you have Key, and you have Darren Peterson, and you've got a Markkanen who we haven't even seen play much the last 2 years.
Right.
His wheels, he's you know what? He saved some time on his legs, by the way. I mean, Triple J, there's some, Chuck I didn't realize had some real doubts. We only got a 3-game taste of what he can do last year, right after the trade. So how does it all fit? And the biggest thing, I want to see what Will's rotations are. That, to me, will tell us a lot.
It will. And, yeah, if there are concerns about Jaren Jackson Jr. and if there are, it's really just the rebounding. He's a pretty versatile offensive player, really good rim protector and defender. And, yeah, he doesn't rebound quite the way some other 6'11", 7-footers do. But look at the length on your roster. You got a 7-foot-plus Lauri Markkanen. You got Ace Bailey. You got Darren Peterson. Those guys step up the rebounding a little bit, make it a team effort, and see how this roster works together. I'm excited for it as well.
And how's the rotation and what's the bench about?
Yep.
I think camp will help map that out in a pretty quick way because I think they have an idea. The Senzabahs, the Filipowskis, the Colliers, and some of the additions, by the way, and how do they fit in?
Yep.
I'm excited to see it.
That's Craig Boler, Jack. You can unbuckle. Wait till you get home, but you can
Wait till
unbuckle
you get home,
now.
man. Yeah. Thanks for having me in. I appreciate it.
Always appreciate your time. One of my favorite guys to talk some sports with, of course, Jazz, Utes. We went all over the map with Boler, and it was a good one. I am Porter Larson. Zach Robinson behind the glass, hitting the buttons for us, keeping us on air and keeping this train on the tracks. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll have a full hour with our friend Sammy Mora breaking down Utah football and fall camp, a big preview of that. Richard Smitty Smith talking more Jazz and off-season. Paul Pugmire for our Uinta Golf PGA Tour update, and we'll go from there. Have a great evening. Chat with you tomorrow. Spence will be back on a Monday right here on Utah's #1 sports talk. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.